Okay, one thing I wanted to ask you guys, what about who's doing the recording?
Ma'am,
Who's
I
doing
am
the
doing it.
Vaishnavi is.
Vaishnavi for the whole thing, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, Vaishnavi, you have to take some pictures also, okay?
Okay, ma'am. For the
You
pictures, I think Daksha is assigned. All the
okay,
skills.
but you also take it, okay, of the speakers, how many people are there on the panel, etc.
Okay, ma'am. Should I start the recording now?
Yes, you start and let it go on till meets or joins.
कामयाब होने के लिए नहीं, काबिल होने के लिए पढ़ो। सक्सेस के पीछे मत भागो, एक्सेलेंस का पीछा करो। सक्सेस झक मार के तुम्हारे पीछे आएगी।
So live a life you will remember. My father told me when I was just a child, these are the nights that never die. My father told me.
Seize the day, my friend. पहले इस दिन को पूरी तरह जियो.
As long as I wake up today, you can't take my youth away. You can't take my youth away. It's hard to sleep at night. Oh, and what's outside? Feeling hopeless. I need focus. You hit me with words I never heard come out your mouth. To be honest.
क्या चाहती हो लाइफ से बनी?
मैं उड़ना चाहता हूँ नैना, दौड़ना चाहता हूँ, गिरना भी चाहता हूँ, बस रुकना नहीं चाहता।
Let's go crazy, crazy, crazy till we see the sun. I know we only met, but let's pretend it's love. And never, never, never stop for anyone. Tonight let's get some and live while we're young. And live while we're young. So let's set the world on fire. We can burn brighter than the sun tonight.
कामयाब होने के लिए नहीं, काबिल होने के लिए पढ़ो। सक्सेस के पीछे मत भागो, एक्सेलेंस का पीछा करो। सक्सेस झक मार के तुम्हारे पीछे आएगी। So live a life you will remember. My father told me when I was just a child, these are the nights that never die. My father told me.
Seize the day, my friend. पहले इस दिन को पूरी तरह जियो.
As long as I wake up today, you can't take my youth away. You can't take my youth away. It's hard to sleep at night. Oh, and what's outside? Feeling hopeless. I need focus. You hit me with words I never heard come out your mouth. To be honest.
क्या चाहती हो लाइफ से बनी?
मैं उड़ना चाहता हूँ नैना, दौड़ना चाहता हूँ, गिरना भी चाहता हूँ, बस रुकना नहीं चाहता।
Let's go crazy, crazy, crazy till we see the sun. I know we only met, but let's pretend it's love. And never, never, never stop for anyone. Tonight let's get some and live while we're young. And live while we're young.
कामयाब होने के लिए नहीं, काबिल होने के लिए पढ़ो। सक्सेस के पीछे मत भागो, एक्सेलेंस एक्सेलेंस का पीछा करो। सक्सेस झक मार के तुम्हारे पीछे आएगी।
So live a life you will remember. My father told me when I was just a child, these are the nights that never die. My father told me.
Seize the day, my friend. पहले इस दिन को पूरी तरह जियो.
As long as I wake up today, you can't take my youth away. You can't take my youth away. It's hard to sleep at night. Oh, and what's outside? Feeling hopeless. I need focus. You hit me with words I never heard come out your mouth. To be honest.
क्या चाहती हो लाइफ से मनी?
मैं उड़ना चाहता हूँ नैना, दौड़ना चाहता हूँ, गिरना भी चाहता हूँ, बस रुकना नहीं चाहता.
Let's go crazy, crazy, crazy till we see the sun. I know we only met, but let's pretend it's love. And never, never, never stop for anyone. Tonight, let's get some and live while we're young. And live while we're young. So let's set the world on fire. We can burn brighter than the sun tonight.
कामयाब होने के लिए नहीं, काबिल होने के लिए पढ़ो। सक्सेस के पीछे मत भागो, एक्सेलेंस एक्सेलेंस का पीछा करो। सक्सेस झक मार के तुम्हारे पीछे आएगी।
So live a life you will remember. My father told me when I was just a child, these are the nights that never die. My father told me.
Seize the day, my friend. पहले इस दिन को पूरी तरह जियो.
As long as I wake up today, you can't take my youth away. You can't take my youth away. It's hard to sleep at night. Oh, and what's outside? Feeling hopeless. I need focus. You hit me with words I never heard come out your mouth. To be honest.
क्या चाहती हो लाइफ से मनी?
मैं उड़ना चाहता हूँ नैना, दौड़ना चाहता हूँ, गिरना भी चाहता हूँ, बस रुकना नहीं चाहता.
Let's go crazy, crazy, crazy till we see the sun. I know we only met, but let's pretend it's love. And never, never, never stop for anyone. Tonight, let's get some and live while we're young. And live while we're young. So let's set the world on fire. We can burn brighter than the sun tonight.
कामयाब होने के लिए नहीं, काबिल होने के लिए पढ़ो। सक्सेस के पीछे मत भागो, एक्सेलेंस एक्सेलेंस का पीछा करो। सक्सेस झक मार के तुम्हारे पीछे आएगी।
So live a life you will remember. My father told me when I was just a child, these are the nights that never die. My father told me.
Seize the day, my friend. पहले इस दिन को पूरी तरह जियो.
As long as I wake up today, you can't take my youth away. You can't take my youth away. It's hard to sleep at night. Oh, and what's outside? Feeling hopeless. I need focus. You hit me with words I never heard come out your mouth. To be be honest.
क्या चाहते हो लाइफ से मनी?
मैं उड़ना चाहता हूं नैना, दौड़ना चाहता हूं, गिरना भी चाहता हूं, बस रुकना नहीं चाहता.
Let's go crazy, crazy, crazy till we see the sun. I know we only met, but let's pretend it's love. And never, never, never stop for anyone. Tonight, let's get some and live while we're young. And live while we're young.
कामयाब होने के लिए नहीं, काबिल होने के लिए पढ़ो. सक्सेस के पीछे मत भागो, एक्सेलेंस एक्सेलेंस का पीछा करो. सक्सेस झक मार के तुम्हारे पीछे आएगी.
So live a life you will remember. My father told me when I was just a child. These are the nights that never die. My father told me.
Seize the day, my friend. पहले इस दिन को पूरी तरह जियो.
As long as I wake up today, you can't take my youth away. You can't take my youth away. It's hard to sleep at night. Oh, and what's outside? Feeling hopeless. I need focus. You hit me with words I never heard come out your mouth. To be honest.
क्या चाहते हो लाइफ से मनी?
मैं उड़ना चाहता हूं नैना, दौड़ना चाहता हूं, गिरना भी चाहता हूं, बस रुकना नहीं चाहता.
Let's go crazy, crazy, crazy till we see the sun. I know we only met, but let's pretend it's love. And never, never, never stop for anyone. Tonight, let's get some and live while we're young. And live while we're young.
कामयाब होने के लिए नहीं, काबिल होने के लिए पढ़ो. सक्सेस के पीछे मत भागो, एक्सेलेंस एक्सेलेंस का पीछा करो. सक्सेस झक मार के तुम्हारे पीछे आएगी.
So live a life you will remember. My father told me when I was just a child. These are the nights that never die. My father told me.
Seize the day, my friend. पहले इस दिन को पूरी तरह जियो.
As long as I wake up today, you can't take my youth away. You can't take my youth away. It's hard to sleep at night. Oh, and what's outside? Feeling hopeless. I need focus. You hit me with words I never heard come out your mouth. To be honest.
क्या चाहते हो लाइफ से मनी?
मैं उड़ना चाहता हूं नैना, दौड़ना चाहता हूं, गिरना भी चाहता हूं, बस रुकना नहीं चाहता.
Let's go crazy, crazy, crazy till we see the sun. I know we only met, but let's pretend it's love. And never, never, never stop for anyone. Tonight, let's get some and live while we're young. And live while we're young.
होने के लिए नहीं, काबिल होने के लिए पढ़ो. सक्सेस के पीछे मत भागो. एक्सेलेंस का पीछा करो. सक्सेस झक मार के तुम्हारे पीछे आएगी.
So live a life you will remember. My father told me when I was just a child, these are the nights that never die. My father told me.
A very good afternoon to one and all present here. I, Takreem Malik, welcome you all to this Intercollegiate International webinar celebrating International Youth Day, Yin, Yang and Youth, organized by the Department of Psychology, RD National College. We are extremely honored to have several esteemed speakers here with us today. We are also more than gratified to announce that for this event, we have an extensive participation of over 190 students from various colleges, including KC College, Patkar College, Lala Lajpat Rai, Wilson College, MMP Shah College, Sophia College, SNDT University, NG Acharya College, and Royal College of Arts and Commerce, and various other colleges from all over India. To better the world they stand to inherit, today's youth has not only entered the battlefield to combat political wars, but also to restructure the economy and voice their opinions fearlessly. With this marvelous amalgamation of unwavering passion and strength, it is certain that we will live up to our potential and defy the social norms that continue to restrict our progress of being able to blossom into the very best version of ourselves. But with the good comes the bad. With the highs comes the lows, and with the dawn comes task. And youth are no exception from this dichotomous nature of the world. However, with these complementary forces combined and correlate, they only make us uniquely human. Thus, Carl Jung rightly said, anyone who perceives his shadow and light simultaneously sees himself from two sides and thus gets in the middle. With this said, I would now like to begin our webinar by thanking our principal in charge, Dr. Neha Jaktiani, and the Hyderabad Sindh National Collegiate Board. Of course, no program is complete without the firm resolution and tremendous efforts of the head of Department of Psychology, RD National College, Dr. Meghna Basu Thakur, because of whom this event has become possible and who has given all of us an opportunity to learn and create awareness on the importance of learning and mental health. Having 22 years in our college, Meghna ma'am is the epitome of inspiration for all of us. Our first segment of the day talks about an interesting product of capitalism. It is a philosophy that is embraced by many and is glorified to the extent that it almost becomes a norm. Keep grinding, keep hustling, hustle hard, and all she knows is hustle. Hustle culture is a phenomenon that is widely used by employers, and simply put, it justifies burnout. It refers to the firm belief that in order to attract true success in a career and in life, the pursuit will involve having to work hard, more, and for longer. But worry not. Our Gen Zs had a solution to this. Whipping the cancel card, this young generation has managed to bring Elon Musk's idea of overworking in the name of success into question. Once again, displaying the mighty sword of cancel culture. From hustle culture to cancel culture, our first speaker, Professor Meet Jnaneshwar, has a lot in store for us. Currently pursuing his PhD from Department of Applied Psychology at University of Mumbai, Professor Meet not only has an innumerable list of achievements ranging from having remarkable teaching experience to research publications on multicultural aspects of youth and conducting various workshops, he has also actively participated as a panelist on several platforms, including our own. In fact, our batch had the privilege to attend his seminar in person pre-COVID times. And as a student who had just entered the world of psychology, hearing his perspective on how to swap burnouts for breakthroughs, I personally remember being absolutely mesmerized by the end of it. With that being said, we would like to invite Professor Meet on this platform once again and hope that everyone will be as spellbound by his segment as we were when we met him for the first time. Welcome back, Meet sir. You can now take over.
Thank you, Takreem. Am I audible and am I visible? Because I mean, I usually take lectures on Zoom and it does not happen in that. I mean, so when I just joined in right now, it just it forcibly stopped my camera and I restarted and I'm seeing that it is happening again. So if that happens over a sustained period of time, I'll join in from another device, which is my phone. So I'll sort of keep the laptop on because I want to use the laptop for typing, for other things. And for you all to be able to see me, I'll join in from the phone as well. As of now, you all can see me and hear me, right?
You're perfectly audible and visible, sir.
Thank you so much. So I'm really touched by Takreem's introduction of me and sort of talking about one public talk that happened, I think at Psychomagicum, right? Was it Psychomagicum? Okay, which I also used to look forward to every year, barring the 2 years of the lockdown, because things were a little different in the lockdown. But I used to really look forward to Psychomagicum every year because National would come up with such interesting topics, which would make me rack my brain and try and be able to deliver something in the form of a discussion with a huge crowd. Like your auditorium is almost always full, which for me is in itself such a great opportunity to interact with about 700, 600 odd students every year. I used to really look forward to it. Thanks, Takreem, for thinking that I could talk about this. Having said that, you've actually said quite a bit. You've sort of laid the foundation of what I have been wanting to say. And I was actually given this particular topic, which was titled Crack the Code, Break the Mold, right? Am I supposed to speak only in English? Are there students, are there people, are there participants who would like me to switch between English, Hindi on and off? अगर ऐसा है तो मुझे बताइए. मुझे कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. English would do. Okay. You can raise your hand. You can type in the middle of the session. I just have 20 minutes with you. So I'm 20 to 25 minutes with you because I also want to spare some time for y'all to talk to me, which is how I'd like it the most, which is also how I'm used to doing sessions usually. I don't know how to address like a gathering as huge as this and yet make it interactive. So I'm going to do small things, but please feel free to interrupt me at any point in time, and I don't mind switching between English and Hindi. So yeah, when I was told talk about crack the code and break the mold, and two things were expected of me. One is a sort of discussion around the hustle culture, which sort of plagues our life today. I'm party to it. I'm sort of also guilty of it in some ways. No matter how hard I try to act, think, do things differently, in some ways I do fall prey to the hustle culture. And the second thing is this whole dimension of cancel culture. And I was, of course, told to think about the capitalist underpinnings of both hustle culture and cancel culture. And of course, it's impossible to talk about both these, the hustle culture side of the world that we are in today, and the cancel culture, which again plagues almost all our social media lives, especially the lives of those who are into some or the other form of social media activism. And I'm honored that that a youth congress thought that a 32-year-old uncle would be capable of, one, addressing youth and be relevant to them, but also talk about cancel culture and hustle culture and talk about capitalism, because all of these are inherently very, very political topics. Talking about capitalism is talking about politics. And up to say 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and I see this shift very largely today. And thanks again to the fact that I'm an oldie, I'm a boomer. I can talk about these shifts because I very clearly remember that a group of psychologists used to be a group where you had to go in and say that psychology is political. Please don't be apolitical. Being apolitical is also a political choice. Psychology is not political. You know, because the generation in which we learned and the kind of textbooks that we have, we are in some way told that, you know, being political is a bad thing when you're a psychologist. You have to be neutral. You have to be objective. You have to keep your politics aside. But that itself is a political act, is what used to be one of the larger points of discussion with groups of psychologists to sort of break those foundations of apoliticalness with them. But the fact that I've been given this topic also indicates the shift from psychologists who would think of themselves as apolitical objective to being a part of a very politically charged socio-political atmosphere of working professionals. So here's to the working professionals of tomorrow, where we are sort of assuming a certain kind of understanding of politics and talking about capitalism. But before we sort of look at the connection of capitalism to hustle culture and to cancel culture, I thought it would be, I think, the cornerstone of this 20 minutes or 25 minutes, and give me a time check, Takreem, when I have 5 minutes left, so that I can then sort of try and wrap up my larger argument if I'm not anywhere close to finishing it, because capitalism and psychology is what I'm planning to start a 30-hour course on soon. So to sort of pack those 30 hours of a possible program into a sort of a bullet point 25 minutes of a lecture is going to be difficult, but I'm going to try. So the first thing that we all should spend 2-3 minutes or 4 minutes discussing is, how do we as a group of about 180 odd people, how do we understand the very term capitalism? Because if we are clear with what we mean by capitalism, then we'll very quickly be able to delve into what do cultures of capitalism mean for the human psyche, what is the psyche of capitalism, and then even if I don't make these connections, you will be able to tell me what is the relationship between capitalism and hustle cultures and capitalism and cancel culture. So that's what I'd like to begin with, probably spending a minute discussing the term capitalism itself. Like I said, I'm not going to be the only one talking, yapping all the time. मैं एक link paste करूँगा. I'll put a link. Somebody said Hindi would be better. Somebody saying English is fine. So मैं एक link paste करूँगा आपके chat box में, जो मैं तकरीम से request करूँगा कि आप YouTube के discussion box में भी डालें. It is a link of something called as Padlet. So when you click on the Padlet, it will take you to a page, okay? And the page asks you to type your thoughts on the word capitalism. So whatever comes to your mind, whatever you subjectively mean by the word capitalism, I urge every one of you to just type those things on the wall that this particular link takes you to. So I repeat, I'll put up a link there on the chat box. Click on the link. You will be taken to a page which will say, what are your thoughts on capitalism, or what is it that comes to your mind when somebody says capitalism? Somewhere on that page you will see a plus sign. So when you see that plus sign and you click on it, it will basically act like a post-it. So on that wall there'll be post-its of everyone who sort of gives their opinion on capitalism, and the sooner we do this, the sooner we'll be able to move ahead. So here I sort of paste the link onto your chat. Can you all see this? Are you all able to see this link? Yeah, just click on that link, everyone, and shoot, and I'll sort of share screen, so everyone will be able to see what everyone else is writing. Can you all see my screen, which reads, what does capitalism mean to you? हाँ ना ना, please unmute yourself. बताइए दिख रहा है नहीं दिख रहा है?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, thank you, Rida. better quality, but economical disparity. Can everyone see what are the post-its? Are they able to see those as well?
Yes, sir, we are able to see.
Yay. Okay, cool. Great, amazing. The economic situation where business is run by private investors and not by the state. Okay, thank you. Motive to make profit. Great. Capitalism ignores people's needs, results in wealth inequality. Okay. Does not promote equal opportunity. Private ownership. Jeff. Okay. Individualism. Great. Thank you. Double-edged sword of the system. Controlled by private companies. Great, great. All right. Makes the poor poorer, individualism. All right. That's it. These are like about 20 people responding. The link also on YouTube, Takreem.
Yes, sir. Yes, it's shared with a group of people that have joined the webinar.
Thank you. Have the further guests also joined in? Has Vishakha joined in?
I think they'll be joining in soon. I'll let you.
Can everyone else see what's on the board? I'm glad that there are so many people who think about capitalism and think so succinctly about capitalism, because most of what they've put out there is absolutely accurate. Neutrality, okay, communalism, capital accumulation, control property, private ownership. All right, another minute and we'll motive to make profit, something that benefits only the rich. All right. All right, I'm gonna move ahead because I'm also looking at my time, and it's say about 15 more minutes that I have. But yeah, I'm glad that a lot of people have put out a lot of things which are largely accurate, and can you all see a whiteboard now? Okay, so if I was to, if anybody from the audience was to look at all those responses and pick out one soul of capitalism out there, what would you want to highlight as a single common denominator of everything that you see on screen? ऐसी क्या है चीज है या ऐसा क्या पॉइंट है जो आपको लगता है कि कैपिटलिज्म की बिल्कुल रूह है? Okay, what is the soul of capitalism out of all those? Yes, Sakshi. Unmute yourself and you can sort of. Also, if there are more people turning on their videos, that would also be absolutely great. It's always nice to look at more faces than blank patches on screen. Yeah, Sakshi, would you like to go ahead and say what you want to say? Oh, Sakshi is saying I cannot unmute. Oh, allow people to unmute, yeah?
Okay. Yeah, now you can unmute Sakshi.
Okay, okay. Sakshi, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say private ownership.
Okay. Okay.
Because that's what it is.
Fine.
Also, I've written it that's why I'm biased towards that statement.
That's all right. I mean, but now that you've also looked at other responses, you still feel private ownership is sort of what does it, or what
It
is
sums up everything.
Yeah, it sums up everything. All right. Anybody else?
Hello, sir.
Yes, Neha. Go on.
It's a profit that we get to our country's business individually.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So if there was one central ethos of capitalism, if there was something that we could sort of say was the one guiding light of capitalism as a system, as a structure, as a certain set of processes knit together, then that one central ethos would be I'm unable to write. Okay, can you all see what I'm writing? Okay. Yeah. So these few words are words that sort of are the key theme or the central theme of capitalism. And so what does capitalism sort of employ for making profit or profit maximization happen? So it is profit for profit's sake. It is maximum profit. It is more and more profit. So all that capitalism is bothered with, all that capitalism wants is profit and private production of profit. Okay, so in a way, the first person who answered, sorry, I forgot her name, was also in a way right. Okay, it is not just privatization, it is privatization of profit. Okay, so it is a cycle of making sure that more and more and more and more production happens, production of profit happens, and maximum profit is produced. Okay, now what are the tools that this exercise uses, or how does capitalism ensure that there is maximization of profit? That is where you sort of get in privatization. It also gets into endless cycles of Can you all see what I'm writing? And hence this whole idea of okay, so in order to ensure that there is profit maximization and production of profit constantly, there's a private ownership or privatization of everything. Okay, what do I mean by private ownership? Private ownership of all the 5 means of production. What are those means of production? Land, labor, technology, what else? I'm sure you all know.
Capital and enterprise.
Capital.
Very good. Yeah. So privatization of everything, all those things that would otherwise or traditionally be owned and run by the government, okay, or by the state, by the welfare state, as we call it, Capitalism entails that all those things become taken away from the state and come into the hands of the private sector or the industrialist. Okay, and then you create production and consumption, cycles of production and consumption. Therefore, the more the production, the more you have to ensure that there is consumption. How do you create these cycles of production and consumption? This is where we move into the psyche of capitalism. One of the first things that capitalism always sort of wants to focus on is a constant creation of what is called desire. Okay, desire and desirability. Okay, I'll come to the desirability bit later, but desire. Where does desire come from? Psychologists say that desire comes from where? Where does desire come
Needs.
from? Okay, needs come from a
Person.
desire comes from lack. Okay, so one of the things about the psyche of capitalism is the constant production of lack. Okay, what is lack? कमी. अगर मुझ में कोई कमी है, अगर मेरे पास कोई चीज नहीं है, अगर मुझे लगता है कि मेरी जिंदगी बेहतर होगी तब जब मेरे पास ये होगा, तो I am essentially experiencing desire at the root of which there is a lack. Okay, that's one part of capitalism. But the other thing is the psyche of value. Okay, and of creating value, of seeing those things as important which have value, and value is only that which can be monetized. Okay, so there's a constant, I mean, production, consumption, privatization, and profit. At the center of all of it is value through the ability to be able to monetize or purchase. Okay, purchase / spend. In the years of finance capitalism, money in itself has become a very amorphous concept. Okay, because everything is now e-money or digital currency. Okay, currency in itself is not like a sikka anymore or like a note anymore. It can be bitcoins, it can be all sorts of things. So previously, pre-capitalism, okay, the logic was that the marketplace used to be governed by a logic of product. You produce something in order to be able to sell it for money so that you can buy something. Product, money, in order to be able to buy another product. But capitalism is the logic of reversing that idea into money, product, money. Okay, you need money to begin with in order to be able to produce something. Why? Not because you want to satisfy a need, but because you want to create more money. And in the age of financial capitalism, product has gone away. Money for money. You create money on the basis of money. I'm sorry, this is a little bit of a dense concept, but as long as you understand everything that's on the left of the board, which is the modus operandi of capitalism, everything on the right of the board is what we're going to talk about with respect to how capitalism therefore creates a psyche of desire, okay, which comes from a process of creating a feeling of lack. Okay, and this product and production, product and consumption is also related to how we start seeing ourselves eventually, which is as a product. Okay, we want to be a really good product so that we can eventually be sold in the market of capitalist economy, so that this product can earn money and be valuable. So you come to start to value yourself only in terms of how productive you are and what are the things that you can produce and what is you as a unique individual product which nobody else is. Okay, and therefore the kind of degrees that we want to pursue, therefore the kind of branding that we want to do. Xavier's College is a brand factory that we might want to go into so that we become a product of a certain kind, so that on the left hand side, if you can see competition, so that you, when you stand in competition with other products, you are able to sell yourself better. Okay, do you get the link between what capitalism does in the marketplace and how you as an individual actor turn, on the other hand, to imbibe the values of value within you, because you eventually end up being a product that needs to be sold in the market, that needs to establish its value with competing products that are also on the offering. Do you understand that? Yeah. Okay. Now, also, if I was to add to this list on the right hand side, thanks, Sakshi. So that thumbs up means that you're understanding, I'm assuming. So it is also a culture that if it values profit at an individual level, if it values value, if it values profit, then it's a culture that in a certain way values time. And so every time a new person enters, my cursor goes away. So it is a culture that values time and money. I mean, these are the psychological dimensions of a capitalist culture: productivity. Because you're supposed to produce. If you're idle, which means you're wasting the valuable resource of time. And also, today is a time when we think of time as money, right? Think about English language and how we use the word spend before time and spend even before money, right? How do you spend time? As if it was something that you're spending, as opposed to something that's passing. Okay, it's almost synonymous or homologous or identical with the way we use the word spend for money. Okay, in Hindi, on the other hand, which is a less capitalized language, we use something like waqt bitana or paisa kharch karna, right? But in English, it's spending time and spending money. It's synonymous. It's one and the same. So if productivity is something that's valued, it essentially means what is being valued is what you do with. The host muted me for a second. Can people hear me? Okay. So and if there is this emphasis on productivity, it means we are also a culture that values a product over a process. Okay. In this bit, I would want to add values time and money. It says optimize / maximize / ask for more. What is this ask for more? It's you being this insatiable person, okay, where you're not satisfied. You want more and you want better and you want to move ahead, and there is always an upward mobility, and therefore there is always a sort of a game of numbers that you're playing. Okay, how many likes, how many followers, how many shares, how many degrees, how many papers have you published as a teacher, how many students have you taught, how many PhD students have you guided, how many cars do you have, how many partners do you have? Okay, polyamory versus monogamy. Yeah, I think polyamory also has something very strongly to do with the culture of capitalism. Okay, and to go back to that green line up there, it is, if it is profit, it's production of profit and profit maximization. without a goal, without a place to go, without an end. Also, therefore, it is the production of profit and profit maximization without responsibility, without accountability. And therefore, you can do whatever the hell you want to the economy, let it crashing time and again, let people lose jobs. You can do whatever the hell you want to ecology, okay? And you can do whatever the hell you want to human beings, which you call the human resource, and they are valuable also because they are resources, only insofar as they are resources. Because the product is not only happening in here, not only are we treating ourselves as a product, but a structure up there of capitalism is also treating you as a product. That needs to value itself, that needs to upgrade itself, that needs to train, create value in itself so that you can make a difference and add value to the workplace. Okay. And this now, everything in the pink is what I want to link to a culture of hustle. Okay. Why is it therefore that this hustle culture has become such a big thing? Because only you can choose to increase value in a certain given frame of time. And so what do? You have only 24 hours, right? Everyone has 24 hours. You're told, therefore, to manage time well, to do more, to do courses, to not be idle, to feel guilty if you've taken a nap, and if that nap becomes like from half an hour to like 2 hours. You're supposed to feel guilty. You're supposed to feel bad if you failed a year. Yeah. You're supposed to feel crazy if you haven't used your lockdown for building your body, for adding things to your resume. Believe me, a lot of my teacher friends finished their PhDs in the lockdown. Those people who could not finish their PhDs otherwise took the opportunity to finish their PhDs in the lockdown. I don't know how they could do it, but I mean, nonetheless, they were making the most of time, right? So hustle culture is clearly linked to constantly feeling a sense of lack within if I'm not doing something, which in its essence is changing the nature of human beings to human doings, because you're only as valuable as the things you've done, as the things you've achieved, as the successful mountains that you've climbed. Yeah. So your resume is a sort of capitalist certificate of your value, with the more number of things on it, the more being your unique brand proposition. Okay. And another very important thing that capitalism does, therefore, is, I mean, if you look at the last thing in that blue side, which is individual choices, it makes you believe that you have a choice. Okay. Unlike feudalism, which didn't tell you that you have a choice. So the time before capitalism was the time of feudalism, where you were either a feudal lord or you were a peasant or serf, working with the feudal lord. So if you were born in the feudal family, you continued to be a feudal lord. And if you're born a peasant, you continue to be a peasant. So you had no choice. Okay, you were tied to your land, you were tied to your profession, okay, and your choice didn't exist. What capitalism does, on the other hand, is makes you believe that you have a choice. A chaiwala can become a prime minister of the country. Is a classic Slumdog Millionaire, rags to riches story that's told to us as that story of the person who chooses to make the most of his time, who chooses to work hard, who chooses to hustle all the time and then make it to that position. Okay. But let me tell you, I have spent the last 20 years of my life hustling, and all that I've been able to reach is an assistant professor position in a government aided college. And that's about it. Okay. Do you think that these multi-millionaires like Elon Musk, somebody's capitalism chart read Elon Musk, somebody's read Bill Gates? Do you think Bill Gates does more hard work than us? I don't know. Do they work more hard? Do they have more time in the day? I feel like there is a structure to capitalism, which capitalism sort of pushes us to believe, to not look at. It tries to tell us that there's nothing like a structure, because the individual is seen as over and above the structure, because you're told you can do anything. but you are also a part of the structure that constantly makes profit from your labor and gives you very little share of that profit, of that productivity, because there are multiple such people working in the structure of capitalism on the backs of which capitalist empires are built, where profit is maximally in the hands of very, very few people. And who or why does the work culture become a hustle culture? Because it profits somebody. Who is it that it profits? It profits the structure of capitalism, because the more you work and the more you believe that your worth, your value is attached to your productivity, is attached to you being a unique brand, is attached to you being able to be unstoppable by anything, even like a pandemic, where you now stop to work on ground, you work from home. Okay, the more unstoppable you think you are, and the more you can keep on going, that hustle culture continues to exist because it profits capitalism. So then what about, I'm at 3:47. So then what about cancel culture? Okay, I'm assuming that everyone understands cancel culture as this culture on social media where if you say something quote unquote politically incorrect, or if you stand for something that is politically problematic, then you are supposed to be cancelled. Then you're out. Then you're wiped off. Yeah, do we all understand cancel culture as this thing? Yeah, raise your hand. Okay. Okay, cool.
So
So
we are really running short of time in our
yeah,
next
so I'll just take 1
speaker.
minute and finish the link of capitalism to cancel culture, and then I can shut up. Then so if I was to be a brand in the space of radical woke politics, one, capitalism is closely tied to liberal politics and regressive politics or right-wing politics. In that larger milieu, there is very little space that anyways people who quote unquote believe in progressive politics have. Okay, and if I want to have that space, I mean, why do people want to also belong to that space? In a lot of ways, I feel like progressive values also end up becoming a branding tool. Okay, you as a unique individual or as a progressive individual get to put yourself out there as a good product if you are able to brand yourself using progressive values. And therefore, you're able to compete in this market of anyways present little progressive space with other progressive people who you can then cancel if they end up displaying something that is non-progressive. Okay, so as a brand value, as a branding tool in this market of competition, okay, for this little progressive space, you can also end up feeling pure, pious, and righteous without actually having to do anything, by just expressing a politically correct, rightly articulated political opinion. Okay, and that I think is the link of cancel culture to capitalism, where if there are products in the market, then a certain kind of non-progressively branded product can be taken off, okay, to clear space for more products to come in. Okay, and at the last, I'd want to say this and end here, that what the cancel culture makes us very beautifully do without even realizing it is that who do we end up canceling? We end up canceling individuals who are a product of a certain structure and system, which is the capitalist, patriarchal, right-wing structure and system. By making us focus on those individuals and making us feel like we have done quite a bit by canceling them as individuals, what it does is that it very skillfully takes our attention away from those systems that produce, or those structures that produce these politically incorrect individuals, okay, which we don't do anything to change or amend or transform. And that is the success capitalism has in propagating a certain kind of cancel culture, because then we successfully ignore the structure, focus on the individual, cancel the individual, and yet feel like we've done a lot without having done actually any. Okay. And I still wonder why we can't end up canceling the Prime Minister of the country at the moment. There is still a limitation to who we can cancel. We can only cancel people who are lesser in power, as opposed to some people who cannot be cancelled. Okay, anyway, I'm going to stop there. And thank you very much. I'm sorry for this morbid talk, because I just like speeded through concepts, and that's what happens when you give me 20 minutes. But anyway.
Thank you so much, sir. We will not be able to take questions. I apologize for that.
Maybe one
However,
question. Is there anybody? I don't know.
We're really short of time. However, we can
take one question, Takreem. Take one question.
All right. We have a question from Sara Siddiqui. She asked, do you think corporate sectors today have normalized toxic work environment in the name of hard work?
Yes, they have. Absolutely. Because the more toxicity there is, that means that people are not really taking care of themselves. They are, I mean, it's about valuing the product over the process. It is, I mean, it really benefits the corporate culture. And so undoubtedly, not only corporates, even in the government sector, even in teaching, for example, there is quite a bit of a hustle culture, especially with the new education policy. We do value product over process, and we don't care about what it does to people's mental health or what it does to the process of teaching learning per se as well. So it's not just corporates, it's everything within the structure of capitalism.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your views and allowing us to have a very fresh perspective on hustle and cancel culture. As expected, we are in awe all over again. Your emphasis on how psychology cannot be apolitical is completely true and something we should all learn and remember throughout our lives. It is an absolute pleasure having you here with us this afternoon. And once again, thank you for taking time out from your busy schedule and being with us here this afternoon. I now invite fellow classmate Rida Merchant to introduce our next segment. Over to you, Rida.
Thank you, Takreem. So, a year after COVID-19 struck the world and disrupted the lives of many, aftershocks of this pandemic continue to adversely affect the world. Of all the heartbreaking effects of this mass crisis, its impact on young people could prove to be one of its most damaging legacies. In fact, the risks of turning back the clock on years of progress made on communities' well-being is higher than ever and has forced the youth to be under tremendous pressure across the globe. But in the midst of death, life persists, and in the midst of darkness, light persists. At the very heart of the COVID-19 pandemic arose a wave of solidarity that spread across the world, touching the hearts of many and bringing people together in ways like never before. One of the many doctors who were our beacon of hope during this period of utmost distress is our very next speaker, Dr. Jessica Wright, who is here with us this afternoon all the way from London. Dr. Wright, a psychiatrist who has been working as a trainee in liaison psychiatry in 2 large general hospitals in London during the pandemic, and recently published 2 research papers on the impact of the pandemic on acute mental health presentations. With avid interest in global mental health and compassion for all, it is only natural she serves to be a great source of inspiration for the youth of today. Currently working in a community mental health team for the geriatric population, Dr. Wright is here to share the other side of the story, giving us a raw and pragmatic insight on the deterioration of community mental health and the hardships faced by the mental health practitioners to maintain the flourishment and progress made by the community in the domain of mental health so far. Without further ado, we extend a very warm welcome to Dr. Jessica. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you ever so much for the very lovely introduction. And thank you very much for asking me to speak with you all today. So my name's Jessica. I'm a psychiatrist working in London. As you can see, I'm joining you from my car as I've had to dash out between patient visits as we're quite overwhelmed at the moment. But I was going to speak to you a little bit about my experiences working in mental health during the COVID-19 pandemic. So I was working for 18 months in liaison psychiatry, which is where you work in a general hospital and you look after people who have mental illness, who've come in for other things with COVID, with heart attacks, with pneumonia. But you also look after people who, as part of their illness, kind of develop confusion or kind of psychosis and that sort of things, and you help look after them in the general hospital. It feels very strange to be looking back right at the beginning of the pandemic now. It seems such a long time ago, and life has changed so much. But I remember those first few months, as everyone in the world must do, of this feeling of uncertainty and of not knowing what would be coming. And this was kind of shared throughout the medical profession, throughout everyone who works in hospitals, and everybody in all of the countries. It was unexpected. I think for everyone, life was carrying on as normal, and suddenly everything changed. I remember working in the accident and emergency department in the hospital at the time, starting to see the first few cases come in, and no one really knowing what to do, how it would affect us both personally and professionally. It was a very new disease that no one knew what to do with or how to help. From my point of view, it was kind of helping the people who'd been diagnosed with it, with the anxiety of not knowing what was going to be happening. Lots of people also developed confusion as part of this. But also one of my other roles in the hospital was supporting the staff in these new times. We had a lot of unwell colleagues, some of which recovered and some of which unfortunately didn't. And it was kind of making spaces for staff to talk about their experiences, about giving them a chance to listen to their fears. And there was a lot of fear at the time, definitely. We had an overwhelming number of patients and a decreasing number of staff. And I know this is something that all of the countries in the world have experienced. And I think one of the hardest things was the discussions we were all having about making difficult decisions. These were decisions about what will we do if the hospitals isn't coping, what will we do if the National Health Service doesn't cope, who will we treat, who will we turn away. And these are decisions that none of us ever thought we would be in a position to have to make. I think here in the UK, very luckily, we never quite reached the threshold where we were having to make the very, very hardest of decisions. But even that preparation to be thinking about it, be sitting in meetings, making decisions about people's lives had a very long-lasting impact on the staff. Kind of one of the other things I wanted to think about was kind of the kind of bonds between people. I moved to London. I originally studied in Oxford. My family are from a different part of the country, and me, like many of my colleagues, don't have a big extended network in the cities. I'm sure this is the case in many places. But also, my colleagues were from 100 countries all over the world, and suddenly borders started shutting. People weren't able to travel. No one knew what was going to be happening behind all of these closed borders. So there's a lot of isolation, a lot of fear, a lot of worry. But actually, in the end, what I want to talk about is the positives, I think, that have come from this. And I think one of those is teamwork. I can't say I've never felt closer to many of my members of the team. We've spoken in ways that we never would have done without all of this happening. And some kind of really inspirational people who, I know this is for International Youth Day, but people who long retired kind of returned back and said, I'm not going to leave my younger colleagues alone to deal with this. I've got a lifetime of experience and I want to share it and I want to work, even knowing the risks. And that was a very inspiring situation to have those people come back. But also from younger colleagues, people, medical doctors ended up graduating 8 months earlier than expected to come and help us on the wards, to come and do whatever needed to be done. People were kind of very truly pulling together. In my hospital, we had a lot of volunteers from local colleges, from local universities, of people coming in who weren't medically trained and had these things, but to do whatever they could to kind of bring round meals, help with that sort of thing. And we all took on different roles, and I think realised all of the different things that it was possible for us to do. So, I mean, I'm a psychiatrist. It's a very long time since I've worked in a kind of an intensive care unit, but we all picked up new skills. We all did whatever we could. I fed patients. I proned patients. I did all of these things that I never would have done without the support of my colleagues and the kind of this belief of being a team. And it was also something very much the whole community were involved in. Central London, which was deserted. There was no cars on any of the roads of central London, but the people who were still living there, the restaurants, all of that sort of thing, we knew with it, everyone in the hospital, with everyone thinking of everybody in the hospital. And I've never seen so many donations or people stopping on the street to kind of say thank you and that sort of thing. And I think, that was a very inspiring thing as well. Another thing that I noticed that came from this pandemic is a receptiveness to change that has really improved. Things in large organizations can get stuck, can be done the same way for years and years and years, because no one said that, that's the way that things have always been done. But suddenly things couldn't be done the way that they've always been done. And management started asking, okay, how can we change things? How can we adapt our services to not being able to see people face to face, to not having to be distant from some people? And these ideas didn't just come from managers or leaders in the organizations. They came from everybody. They came from people who had just started a few weeks ago and could bring an entirely different perspective to things. And these ideas were listened to, which they may not have been before. And we completely changed the service. We kind of brought a kind of psychiatric emergency service into being over the course of 3 weeks. And everybody pulled together, everyone in the service. It was staffed almost mainly by young people. And it was a very wonderful thing to be part of, to see what could be done. And I think this receptiveness to change, to listen to young people, to see what difference their ideas can make, is something that I think is going to stay within both the NHS and hopefully within the country for a long time to come. I think it's given the opportunity for people to see what valued contributions everybody makes in society. I think we've had a culture of looking perhaps at celebrities and all of that sort of thing, but not looking at the jobs that can be truly valued. And I think that's an important change that I wanted to think about with everybody, and that everybody is able to make a difference, and everybody has made a difference here. I know that we're very happy to take any questions. I thought that would be a more interesting thing to do than to hear me keep talking. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be delighted to answer them.
Participants are please requested to drop in your questions in the chat box. We'll read out it to ma'am. We have some questions coming in, Regina.
Lovely.
How have you handled people who haven't taken the pandemic seriously?
It's been quite difficult. I think it's something that you've seen from people from all walks of life. There have been people, within my organisation who initially didn't take things seriously. I think I think sometimes you have to understand where people are coming from with that. A lot of the time, I think it's been driven by fear, by, if I don't believe in this, then it's not happening. Nothing bad will happen to me. Nothing bad will happen to the people I love. And I think sometimes being able to verbalize that fear and that worry can help people kind of come to terms with what's going on. And some people may have more extreme views, but sometimes it's looking at what's coming behind that. Why is somebody reacting in this way? And I think having an open conversation, but not judging, has been the way I've always tried to tackle that, and not being too dictatorial and saying, well, clearly you're wrong, this is this. I think just being able to listen to somebody and where they are can often kind of help people come around to where the world is at the moment.
Hi, Dr. Jessica. I had a very strong question to ask, because coming from a lot of students, how did you personally handle the stress of this pandemic?
I think for me, I was very lucky with the people I worked with. I'd actually just started a new job at the time in the general hospital. I hadn't worked there before. but my colleagues, I think, were the people who got me through that. I think we were all experiencing the same things and just able to we sat there, we talked about them. I got lots of friends who work both in kind of my area, but also in lots of different areas. And I think being able to take a kind of wider perspective of how it's affecting everybody helped. I mean, I'm certainly not going to say it was easy. I think, you know, looking out for people who you're working with, who you meet on the street, who acquaintances, that sort of thing. I think that's something that we should all do in the future, and kind of look at little ways of helping, because I don't think there's anyone in the world who didn't struggle kind of over the last 18 months. And it's, yeah, I think it's looking out for each other is what got everybody through.
Thank you. That was really nice. Dr. Jessica, one last question. Is there any message that you would want to give our youth today? We have a lot of girls and boys here today attending. So we wanted to know if you want to give us some message that, you know, they can take home with them.
I think don't ever think that there's nothing that you can do. Don't think that you're worthless or powerless. I think change doesn't come from the people at the top and the people with power. I think change often comes from people who are working, who are on the ground, who know the things that need to be done. I think lots of people making a small difference in the end makes a longer lasting and bigger change than one big decision from someone with power. So I think that's the most important thing.
We have to give ma'am a huge round of applause. I think all of us can put on our camera and give ma'am a huge round of applause for the immense work that ma'am has put in and is putting in during the pandemic, absolutely selflessly. And ma'am is right here, doctor is here with us in midst of her patients. You know, she agreed to be with us for 10 minutes, and really stretching out our gratitude to you, Dr. Jessica, for sharing with us your experience. And like ma'am said, the take home message is you don't have to help only if you're on the top. Any small bit contributes to the larger cause. So thank you, Dr. Jessica, once again on behalf of my college, my institution, all my students here, and kudos to you for the excellent amount of work, dedication, efforts that you put in right in the middle of pandemic, continuously for 18 months with patients. And it's just not the medical part, but it's also reaching out with, I mean, I'm sure all of you've understood from the way ma'am speaking, it's absolutely soft, empathetic, so kind, and I think this is a take home message from all of us. Thank you, Dr. Jessica. Over to you, Takreem.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jessica, for being a part of this program and sharing your valuable time with us this afternoon. COVID-19 has disproportionately affected many, and doctors are under tremendous pressure and often go unnoticed. We're sure our audience is truly enlightened to get to know an unadulterated insight to this deterioration of community mental health and the hardships faced by mental health practitioners. On behalf of all of us present here, once again, we would like to thank you for your tremendous service to this community and applaud you for your personality and your hard work. Thank you so much, ma'am. Moving on to our next segment, Robert Swan once said, the greatest danger to our planet is the belief that someone else will save it. Now we know that it wasn't our next speaker who said this, but we are confident that her ideology is no different. Introducing next in this segment, Ms. Priya Shah, who is a young marine conservationist and environmental protection activist connecting with us all the way from Bangkok. With an IB diploma from Bangkok Patana School, she is an aspiring candidate of mechanical engineering at University of California, Los Angeles. Her fervency and dedication towards marine wildlife is not only inspirational to young marine conservationists among here right now, but it also serves as a reminder to the limited time we possess and the urgency with which we need to act before the biodiversity of our planet is destroyed beyond repair. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our next speaker on the panel, Ms. Priya Shah.
A very, very warm welcome to our youngest speaker of the day, Just an 18-year-old girl, Miss Priya Shah, has done wonders in her field, absolutely voluntarily. She's very, very passionate with the cause. I know a lot of us love dogs and cats, and I keep hearing my son, I want to bring all the dogs and cats home. But I think the kind of work Priya has been doing really requires a larger platform of recognition. And thank you so much, Priya. She is going into a new world of higher education, mechanical engineering. So I told her, when you make the next Tesla car, please give me one. I mean, I think she's going to be working on a new model. Yes, Shazia, but that's where her passion is, engineering. I mean, I need not say what are her marks and scores on the exams and SATs, but absolutely a new world of scuba diving. I'm sure all of us have heard it, going for a holiday, but helping out when it comes to environment. So I'm offering the dice to you, Miss Priya, and over to you, and I think all of us will have a great take-home message. Thank you. Over to you, Priya.
Thank you so much for having me here. I hope to share a little bit of what I've learned about marine conservation in particular, and maybe inspire a few of you to change your lifestyle to help out, because any little action helps. So before I properly introduce myself and start my presentation, I want to do a short little exercise with you guys, if you guys would be willing. Okay, so I'm going to ask everyone to close your eyes. And all right. Sorry. I want you all to imagine that you're at your favorite beach. Perhaps you came here to celebrate the end of your exams, or maybe to get away after being quarantined for 2 years. Right now, listening to the murmur of waves gently caressing the seashore, you've never felt at peace like this. The sand is soft and warm against your feet, but the waves, cool and refreshing. You can smell that unique scent of the sea and taste the slightly salty yet soothing sea breeze. In the distance, you see a couple of kids building a sandcastle. They're running around with buckets filled with water to dampen their sand. Nostalgia starts to trickle it in, and you're overcome with this feeling of joy. You can't help the small smile that starts spreading over your face. Being by the ocean has always given me the sense of unparalleled peace, and I'm never really my true self like I am when I'm by the sea. It is my favorite place in the world. Everyone can open your eyes now. The sad reality is trips like this in the future might not be that possible. In fact, in 2050, going to a trip by the beach might be more dangerous than it is calming. I'm just going to share my other presentation. Okay. So, like they introduced, my name is Priya Shah, and I'm incoming freshman at the University of California, Los Angeles. Technical difficulties. I'm going to be studying mechanical engineering, and one of my main reasons I want to study engineering is because I want to be able to help the environment through creating different products that can improve our world. So in reality, my journey of marine conservation wasn't really because of this inherent desire to do something for the world. I just started realizing how much I love the ocean, and during one of our trips to this island in Thailand called Koh Tao, which translates to the island of turtles, I went scuba diving for the first time. When I went scuba diving, I realized how little I understood about the ocean. It was like entering a whole new world. I think a lot of us forget that the ocean makes up the majority of our world. It's 70% of the world, and the little parts of the land we've explored is only 30%. Because of this, there's so much that we don't know about what's occurring in the ocean, especially the damage that's occurring. After realizing how much I love scuba diving, I was privileged enough to have a club in my school which was focused on marine conservation. So I decided to join that to make a few friends and maybe go on trips to the beach. My main motivation originally was to have fun, be with friends, and go scuba diving more. I thought our trips away would be places where we could enjoy the beach and as a side project, be helping the environment. But the reality was a lot more harsh. Every day, whenever we went to go clean out the beaches, this is the real reality that we saw. Coral reefs were not bright and colorful, they were dead and bleak. There was plastic covering everything, and we saw turtles ingesting stuff like plastic bags. This is the reality of the majority of our oceans in the world today. Plastic is a monster that is strangling our oceans, and this is a big problem that we need to solve. One of the main issues with plastic is that they don't biodegrade, so they're going to be here forever. When we're thinking of ancient humans and their fossils, we imagine things like tools, and we admire their resourcefulness to make these tools. Future generations, when they look at us, they're most likely only going to find fossilized plastics. These are plastic bags that we use for 15 minutes and they make no mark on our life, but this is what's going to define our future from many other generations. This is what they're going to see. 8 million tons of plastic and trash enters our oceans every single year. These numbers become so big that it's hard to visualize. So from that 8 million tons of plastic, I'm going to focus on only the plastic water bottles. From the plastic water bottles, you have enough to circle the world not once, not twice, not even 3 times, but 4 times. So when we hear things of the Saturn's rings, we feel so much admiration and joy because they're so pretty. But next time you think about Saturn's rings, also think about the Earth with rings of plastic water bottles. It's so much that now in our world, we have these patches of garbage called garbage patches. Some patches are so big that they're bigger than the state of Texas, the biggest state in the United States. That means when you see this land, you wouldn't even be able to tell it's the ocean. You would think it's just a land of trash. But if you tried to walk on it, you would just sink. The problem is, even when you sink, the plastic goes in for so many meters that all around you would also be plastic. It's quite a horrific sight. But I feel like the worst thing is we all sort of become desensitized to this. I remember a few years back in India when I came for a holiday, we were driving through the streets of Marine Drive, and one of the streets was completely blocked off because of the incoming tides from the ocean. And all that was left behind was these heaps of plastic. Traffic in Marine Drive was already so bad, and it was worse because we just had plastic filling the streets. The oceans are literally vomiting back the trash that we're putting into it. And this isn't only in India, it's a global problem. It's all around us. We're now seeing the majority of whales that are washed up on shore filled with plastic, tons and tons of plastic. 99% of all seagulls that exist have ingested some form of plastic, and we get to see a lot of dissections of them with just different things like plastic bottles that don't get digested because plastics don't break down easily. Sea turtles are getting trapped in these different marine plastic wires, and they also ingest plastic bags because one of the main sources of food for turtles is jellyfish, and those are very easily mistaken with plastic bags when it's inside the ocean. But this is more what the effects that's happening on marine life. Why should we as individuals care about what's happening to marine life? Of course, we should feel sympathetic to it, but the reality is because it's affecting marine life, it's entering our food chain. There's this phenomenon called bioaccumulation, and essentially all this plastic that is being found in fishes and seagulls and whales is slowly making its way up our food chain. 67% of all seafood that exists has plastic in it. It's so bad that even if we don't eat seafood, we have these things called microplastics because whilst plastics don't disappear, when they're inside the ocean, they do get broken down because the ocean currents are so strong, and they get broken down into small little pieces that are called microplastics. And these, it's almost impossible to collect them. Nowadays, we're seeing a lot of microplastics are possibly even in the water that we drink every single day. It's becoming a health problem for a lot of us. When you're looking at news around environmental conservation, it often feels like there's no good news. Recently, there was the news that meeting the 1.5 degrees Celsius warming is going to be near impossible. Only 2 countries in the world are on track to meet the 2050 climate change goals. It often feels like we're in a race against time and we're doomed. We're just waiting for doomsday to come. But the evidence actually shows contrary. It shows that if we do actions, if we make efforts to improve our current situation, things do get better. Recently, DC cleared up its rivers and oceans because it had so much plastic pollution, and now they're seeing the returns of dolphins. Similarly, a lot of countries have started banning plastic bag, and I know India also recently did this. And that's an amazing thing. Until now, there's also this phenomenon called coral bleaching that I've not gone into too much, but it's an effect of climate change, and there's a lot of science behind it. If you want me to explain that a little bit further later, I can. But because of this, a lot of people thought around 50% of our coral is dead and there's no way we can ever recover it. But recently, studies are showing if we make quick changes, we can still save these coral species. All the evidence points to the fact that even though we're not at a great state right now, if we make change, we can improve our situation. So what are some small little things that you as an individual can do? Well, you've all stopped using plastic bags, but don't stop there. Go on to plastic, stop using plastic water bottles and use reusable ones instead. Not only is it good for the environment, it's also good for your health because it stops the release of toxic chemicals called BPA inside your water. And don't just stop there. Use reusable coffee cups also. And I know as students, pretty much everyone is going to be having coffee. But the thing is, even if you get like the cardboard little coffee cups, the reality is that those cardboard cups, whilst the cardboard part is biodegradable, most of the times they're lined with plastic, and that again makes its way into our ocean and feeds into this never-ending cycle of plastic pollution. Another thing I recently started doing was purchasing bamboo toothbrushes. Most of us change our toothbrushes every few months because that's what people recommend. And because of that, we have so much plastic entering the ocean. I've actually found quite a few toothbrushes on beaches whilst I was cleaning up. It's easily avoidable if we just change things like bamboo toothbrushes, and the experience is the complete same, so don't worry about that. And if you're a bit more ambitious, you can grab some friends and go on these different beach cleanups. This is something I do very often, and it's actually very fun because it's like a weekend away with your friends and you can collect all this trash and feel like you're making a good impact. We also play this game where whoever can find the weirdest piece of trash wins a prize. And in the past, we've had things like whole washed up computers found on beaches. So that's a way you can make it a bit more fun if you wanted to. If you're also a scuba diver, something else you might be interested in is making artificial coral reefs. These are essentially metallic structures which make it easier for corals to survive. There's a lot of intricate adjustments you have to do to allow it to work, and a lot of times it might fail, but when it works, it's wonderful. This is one of the coral reefs me and my team has built, and it was amazing to see it working out. So I've talked about marine conservation, but environmental conservation has so many different parts. Marine conservation is just one cornerstone. So some other things you can do is maybe explore composting. Composting is an easy way to recycle your food waste and create soil. And this is another initiative I started in my school. Similarly, you can just plant trees, and that's an easy way and fun way to get people involved and help revitalize our planet's trees. Another thing is asking people like your school, or maybe asking your different buildings to invest in solar energy, which is a great renewable source, especially in India. And another part of environmental conservation is also animal protection. with things with the COVID pandemic, a lot of the original sources actually comes from environmental misuses. So the source of the COVID pandemic was actually, it's suspected to be from a bat. And the reason that we have these increases in viruses is because of this thing called illegal animal trade. And it's barely regulated, especially in China, which is why you see these rising different pandemics. They're called zoonotic diseases and they originate from animals. So if we raise awareness about illegal animal trade and different environmental causes like this, it stops bigger problems that affect all of humanity. While environmental conservation might seem small, if we don't protect the environment, its effects are catastrophic. But similarly, while it might seem like you have to rely on governments to make these big changes, you yourself can make big changes. Your small little actions might be just a small little droplet, but it creates big, large ripples. If you choose to improve your sustainability by just 1% each week, say, for example, 1 week you decide to not use the AC, the other week you decide to have a shorter shower. Within a year, you could have made a net 67% increase. This is the power of compounding. So the goal is not to be a perfect environmental activist. It's to be a little bit better each day, each week, and to keep raising awareness. If everyone does small little things like this, we can win this war against climate change. So if any of you decide to take up any environmental projects, I would love to know more. So you can contact me at this email address. And other than that, if anyone has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
I think before we go into the question answer round, I think we all need to give a huge round of applause to Ms. Priya Shah for the excellent contribution she is working on towards the environment and selflessly. I'm sure you've understood how humble, how selfless. There's no I do this, you do this. This is absolutely humility and this is great. So thank you so much on my behalf for Priya for the excellent work she's doing. And we also have, not officially on the panel, but we have her elder sister, Miss Riya Shah, if you can see on the screen. Guys, a 21-year-old budding doctor studying in London, again extremely humble, doing a lot of work during pandemic with different organizations. So I think we will take the questions for Priya. I can see there are I already see 10 questions in the chat box. So you've absolutely raised the interest towards marine. I must say that I love beaches, but I'm really bad. I don't throw plastic, I don't use plastic, but I'm really not very conscious also. So I will try taking shorter showers. I think, like you said, just a small way, because I love taking long showers, but we need to save water. So over to you, Takreem and Rida, for the questions. Riya, and I think here the questions come. Thank you.
One of the questions that have come is, which is the best advice you were given and have to give in regard to conservation?
Okay, so I think one of the best advice is, a lot of times, like, you can feel like you as an individual can't do anything, and you feel like you're sort of going against a wall and it's impossible to win this. But the power comes when you're working with a lot of people and you're doing whatever little bit you can. So the most powerful advice is to just try your best and do whatever is in your capability. And each day your comfort zone and like your horizons of how much you want to expand and do more will grow. You don't have to be perfect from the start. The goal is to be imperfect, but to constantly be trying to improve.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Another question that has come up is by Alifia, and that is, what measures can be taken to protect and conserve coral reefs?
Okay, so coral reefs is a little bit of a harder issue, because the main problem that occurs with coral reefs is there's this disbalance in carbon dioxide levels. With climate change, we have more carbon dioxide in our air, and because of that, we have more CO2 inside of our oceans. This makes our oceans more acidic, and corals they're actually animals. A lot of people mistake them to be plants, but they're animals, and they get really stressed out by these acidic conditions, and that's what causes them to die. So the issue is that we can't actually change the acidic levels inside the oceans, but we can make it easier for coral reefs to survive. So what a lot of different organizations are doing they're building these artificial reefs, which are essentially just metallic structures. And because there's a lot of dead coral needs something to latch onto to grow. So these artificial reefs give them something to latch onto and grow. Something else people are doing is one of the most vulnerable points for coral reefs is the very beginning of their life. So they grow coral reefs in really controlled conditions outside of water first. They're called like coral gardens. And once they are suitable size, they put them back inside the ocean, and then they get to grow a lot more healthier. So finding organizations that are working with coral reefs and seeing whatever you can do to help them would be very valuable. And it's also honestly going to be really fun because coral reefs are just so pretty. They're one of the most beautiful animals, I think.
I absolutely agree with you. And in context to that question, one of the questions that has come up is, which is your favorite marine species?
Okay, so if I'm talking about coral in specific, because honestly, I do think coral are my favorite marine species. There's this coral called pillar coral, which are essentially like these long tubes of coral, and they look really, really cool. They sort of look like pipes or instruments. So I think those are very cool. But if you're talking more about like animals, there are these things called anglerfish, and they live very deep in the ocean, and they sort of like glow in the dark. And I think those are also really cool.
That's really cool. Thank you for such profound thoughts, ma'am.
Rida,
I'm sure
I
we
think,
all.
sorry, Rida, to come in. I think there was one more question
Okay, sure, we
from.
can address it.
Yes, we can address maybe one more question, Priya, I'm sorry. How does coral affect our lives directly?
Okay, so corals actually, one of the main things coral do on like a geographic sense is they stop tides from coming in too much. If you don't have coral reefs, tides tend to be a lot higher, and because of that, you would have shorter sea lines. It especially affects fisher communities because this means sea comes in a lot more. Corals are also like the house for fish, and a lot of different human lives rely on fishing and the fishing industry. And also without fish, then it has like a ripple effect on the rest of the marine food chain. So that would be like a mass extinction. If coral go away, coral are like some of the oldest animals that are there in the world. So if coral reefs were all to die, then there would probably be a mass extinction event inside the ocean. So that's one of the biggest problems. Another way coral reefs directly impact us is more through economies, I guess. Like if you're talking about tourism, coral reefs are like a big selling point for a lot of countries. Like if Thailand itself relies heavily on tourism. If they didn't have these pretty coral reefs and stuff, their economy would crash. So it might not be that much in like a health sense related, but there are these coral are like vital to the marine environment. And because of that, it does create really bad and sad effects to us.
Great.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I'm sure we all have gained insight with respect to marine life and how it is an essential aspect of our lives. And your efforts in saving the environment will definitely not go unnoticed. And although your session started off with a therapeutic activity, I'm sure that indeed gave everyone a reality check. And we are highly motivated to be better citizens of this planet. Again, on behalf of everyone attending today, we thank you for your precious time.
Thank you, Priya. That was an excellent presentation, and I think the way you started was excellent. I thought you're going to put us on a meditation thing, and I was trying to go, I put off my video and I was like, I'm not a meditating person, but I think the way you started off, we kind of realized that yes, Juhu Beach is right there. We walk, we eat pav bhaji, and we come back home without really thinking the kind of work that you're doing and what we can do. And like you said, that coral reefs are a huge contribution to a lot of sectors. And yes, I do have a coral ring, and I'm going to protect that coral ring. I'm sorry I bought it, but I didn't realize that it had such a a larger market. Yes, So thank you so much. That was really nice, and thank you so much for taking time out from your school timing, etc. All the best for your future education. And like I said, I'm the first person who's going to book the Tesla or the car that you're going to make. All the best. Thank you so much for taking our invite. Over to you, Rida and Takreem, and huge round of applause for Miss Priya Shah. Thank you so much for being with us.
Our next speaker is going to talk about the importance of establishing healthy boundaries in friendships and other interpersonal relationships, an aspect we often struggle to practice in our daily life. As Doreen Virtue once said, and I quote, boundaries are a part of self-care. They're healthy, normal, and necessary. And on that note, we would like to introduce our next speaker, Ms. Vishakha Punjani. Ms. Vishakha Punjani has completed a MA in clinical psychology from Mumbai and is a consultant at the Pre-Litigation Center at Bombay High Court. She is also the co-founder of Astitva Mental Health Clinic in Mumbai. Astitva Clinic aids to psychiatry and neurodevelopment disorders and its intervention. She has worked in departments of psychiatry and pediatrics in several government hospitals. Apart from that, she has also worked as a junior assistant researcher in the Department of Evolution and Neuroscience at University of Oxford, UK. Ms. Punjani is also a visiting professor at Ram Narayan Ruia College and the University of Bombay. With an endless list of achievements, her compassion and strive for excellence truly sets her apart from the rest. A very warm welcome to Ms. Vishakha Punjani as she shares her knowledge with all those attending today. Over to you, ma'am.
Hi, Rida. Thank you. Hi, Dr. Meghna Basu. Thank you for having me here. And hi, Natasha, Takreem, Anupama, Kaushini, Sheetal, Zamika, Shazia, Prerna, Regina, Gathika. It's just nice.
So guys, that is a clinical way of telling everyone, cameras on, please. That's the way clinical psychologists from High Court. Guys, huge round of applause. High Court of Mumbai, amalgamation of law and clinical psychology. This is the purest way of saying, girls, keep your cameras on. We are here on. Future clinical psychologist aspirants, we have the best in the market, the best in our profession. Over to you, and welcome so much for taking time out and being with us.
Thank you so very much. Yeah, I think she just got me right. You know, this is what professors, they just know, like I've been a student indirectly and she just knows, okay, Vishakha wants all the students to put the cameras on. So hi guys, first of all, wishing each one of you over here a very happy International Youth Day. Please pat your back right away, because I think it's all that we've contributed to every little thing that we're doing, irrespective of whatever the age bracket of youth says. Okay, I'm very glad to be here, and I'm very glad that all of y'all are here. They're like amazing 84 participants. So I'm going to quickly speak on 3 things as to what very correctly Rida said. I have also added 2 more things for you and I to know that how the pandemic, it was not only you guys, but also we. Okay, when I'm supposed to say I, as a professional, also went through all these 3 stages. And when I'm saying that, I would also want to quote Miss Tiffany, whose research paper I was reading, and I couldn't agree much. And I wrote to her saying that how all of us fit into it. Okay, so hi, everybody else whose name I have missed. I'm just seeing from the screen, which is available. So I hope to tell a hi to everybody soon. Okay, so moving forward, Youth Day, first thing I would want to empower all of you over here who are here, and I see majorly are women, so irrespective of the gender. Most of the times when I'm introduced, I'm always introduced as the youngest. So if you take it in the High Court of Bombay, I'm the youngest. If you take it in my own clinic, I'm the youngest joint founder. I have my senior most joint founder who's 30 years older to me, okay? And sorry, Anaga ma'am, I don't mean to put you at the old, but I'm just trying to empower that how youth can do. Yeah, so even with the teaching faculty at the University of Mumbai, after I got completed with my teaching assistant, I was the youngest as a visiting faculty. So all you guys over there who are thinking, okay, what am I going to do? Pandemic has done this, pandemic has done that. Guys, trust me, you can make the most of it. Okay, you just need to feel and believe and be able to discriminate what your thoughts and feelings are, and you're not going to be right there. Okay, that's how I'm going to start. Now I'm going to segregate my 15 minutes dot into 3 things. I'll be speaking the role in the pandemic that happened and what I actually, whom all did I cater to and what were the chunks of problems. I have categorized them into 3 parts. Second, therapist friend, not a substitute, but a therapist. I think I would want to educate all of you over here that there's a great difference when you are a social media influencer and when you are actually a social media catering to mental health codes. Okay, I'm okay to take the criticisms too. I have done that before. I'm okay to do it now again. And third, the healthy boundaries. So hi Anand, I'm so glad to see a guy too. Hi Anand, if you can see me. Okay, so role in the pandemic, when I'm speaking, I'm going to address it to I, because we were working from home and we as a clinic have done a lot of work. So when it comes to, I have catered to a lot of young people, all, especially exam goings, especially to be doctors, especially the ones who've lost their jobs, to the ones who are like, okay, I don't know, I feel caged in the house, who do not have good, very natural cohesive environment in the house. And I have done a lot of work for the frontliners, especially from the municipal hospitals, that is SIAM, KEM and Nair. When I'm addressing this, this also means the doctors who used to come and see me, like my clinic was available for them and I have worked, they would complete their ICU duties, okay, take a shower, take a pill, and they would come in for. So, as much as we are proud of them, I was also glad when they were taking care of their own mental health. So I think that's one red wire that they cut, that irrespective that they're doctors, it was okay for them to come and say that, Vishakha, it's not easy for me to see so many deaths in a row. Okay. So 3 things that came across from the pandemic as a learning. When I'm saying this, I'm again mentioning it includes me also because I went through this, is pandemic grief, pandemic shame, and pandemic burnout. When I'm seeing grief, a lot of us probably would have lost close ones, or we might know somebody who's lost a closed one, okay? And we think that they are the only ones who are grieving. Guys, trust me, when I'm saying grief, it does not only restrict or stop to death. Grief would be anything, your entire loss of the future, okay? You having no exams, you thinking that, okay, what is my aggregation of marks going to be? What if I'm not going to get internship in the clinics? What if I just get my mark sheet and what am I going to do after my master's? Okay, so probably loss of self, feeling of probably powerless. Like, you think that, okay, after my graduation, I'll do my post-graduation, and then you're like, okay, wait, doom, everything is closed, I don't know what I'm doing. So that's what I would want to address, is called as pandemic grief. That came to me also while I was running my clinic. I think my February was so nice, I was catering to so many people, and then you go zoop down. And I think I also took around good amount of 20 to 25 days when I knew that I had to transit from in-person sessions to online sessions, because I, as a therapist, follows a very eclectic mode. And I was like, fine, okay, I have to do it. So I did take my time, and then I pulled up my socks. So that's with the grief. Then it comes to shame. Shame is basically, it's like, okay, am I the only one who's feeling this? How many of you over here during the pandemic thought that, okay, am I only feeling so strongly? I mean, don't answer it to me because I know it's an open platform, but probably to yourselves. Okay, why is this happening to me? Why am I the one? Why is our batch only cursed? How are seniors passed? Okay, now what about the juniors? How will they look up to us? Because we all want power, right? When we're going one step ahead, we know MA Part 1s are juniors or SYB are juniors, right? So completely feeling that, okay, why am I the only one impacted? Again, completely valid emotion. And I remember that how all of us went to social media and we actually tried motivating each other. And I think the youth has done a good job, specifically when it comes to mental health, but I have certain things I would just want to bring to your notice. Okay, so that's with the shame that all of us had with our own identity. There was an identity crisis, like, okay, what my designation is going to be, who's going to give me a job, and why am I responsible for it, when we should remember that it was environmentally and we didn't have full or complete control onto it. And third, what I saw while I was working during the pandemic, and I'm still is burnout. When I'm saying burnout is where I think that numb feeling, okay, the feeling of uncertainty, that, okay, what if? Okay, if only these things would have worked out. And I think most of us always complained of something which we very loosely use as anxiety. Okay, when does it come? Is because we do not know. We know there's a tunnel and we are taught that there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. But okay, I know I'm going inside the tunnel, but why can't I see light? I am supposed to continue walking. right? So that's exactly what we've done. So these three were the pockets which I wanted to address. If either of you that have felt this or have been in all three, either two or anyone, I have been through too. Even I used to really get tired. As a youth, it shows that we have more energy. We are like, okay, we can do it, and we think that we have more control over it. But when my phone call used to be like 24/7, and at 3:30 I get a call that, hi, listen, I feel like dying, or I'm just feeling so powerless. I don't want to be at home. My parents are fighting. And then to address with my own mental health, taking a minute or two, just give me a minute so I know what they're talking about. I think you've done a great job. I'm sure even each one of you, being psychology students or otherwise, I think we all were humans first. We were all there for each other, to listen, to crib, to bitch, to mull, to be like, okay, I don't know where am I going, but I think we've done a great job. Okay, so that comes to the role in the pandemic. In brief, I want to put across that, see, when I'm giving, I don't want this to be a gyan. Hence, I didn't do a presentation. Otherwise, I actually do. But I'm like, no, this is international youth. Let it be more mutual conversation. Okay. So I would want you all to ask me as many questions as you all have to. Second, oh my God, which boils my blood even now is the social media. I'm sorry, especially Instagram, where I've seen every second person without degree. I wouldn't want to call them quacks because I think it's not very right of me to say that. Whatever bit they would have contributed, they have from their side. So me calling them or subduing them as quack wouldn't be right. But every second person was like, okay, I'm a mental health professional. And how very conveniently they put the tag as mental health professional. They did not mention the designation. That are they psychologists, are they counselors, are they MA, are they certificate course, are they, out of just some diploma courses that they have done, right? So when I'm talking about therapist friend, not a substitute to therapy, is because there is a difference, right? We as friends are very good. Okay, we also make fun. Okay, we have our judgments. Okay, we would say that, हाँ, every day ना वो ऐसे behave करती है, छोड़ना क्या है? We will do everything, and at the end of the day, end of the time, you're like, छोड़ना हमें क्या करना है? Right? And whereas a therapist, although more or less, we've been taught to teach boundaries. Okay, as simple as that. Even I don't sit like this, like, okay, hi Rida, nice to have you here. Tell me, how can I help you? Although this is what we've been taught. Okay, no, a therapist also can, probably be as a good listener as a friend, but there is a difference. So I've actually put down the differences. I can like show it to you when I was writing here. That what are the differences, I want to tell them, because this books won't give you this, only experience gives you. So I've actually written skill. Okay, so there are different skills that we are taught. Like I got good amount of 8 years of good experience, and I still think I'm learning. I never say that, oh, what, I have expertise in this. No, I think my seniors are doing a fantastic job, and I'm still in the process of learning. Second comes experience. Now, when I'm talking about experience, for all you guys over here, experience does not mean the number of years. Experience means the environmental factors you've been able to handle when you were put in, and how did you act, react, or respond to it. Okay, so what makes us mature on the timeline is probably at 5 years of age, I would have been like, okay, no, I want this. Now you'll be like, okay, I can have this, but after that, okay. Hands-on training that we've been got. And second, very correctly, my joint founder, Anaga, asked me to address it, is the manifestation and the exhibition. Like probably today, if I am telling something to Sharvari as a friend, Sharvari has just seen me as a friend side. She's not seen my other sides of my personality timeline or traits, which Sharvari probably might miss out that, okay, this also requires attention. So it's not only about, a friend would be biased. I think they're all good at listening. Okay, they're all good at being there for you, probably showing empathy and sympathy. But I always feel we don't know whether it's no harm or is it helping. I'm not saying friends who do harm, but is it no harm or is it helping? There is a difference. Yeah, so we are probably, it will be the same strategy, but the aim of a therapist is to teach you a coping and to get you independent. Okay, whereas a friend would be like, haan theek hai na, main tere liye kar dungi, I will talk to him, I will, you know, give my piece of shit to him and all of that, right? So that's the difference in there. And third, when I'm talking about healthy boundaries, extremely important, as I think Rita mentioned, it's a form of self-care. And secondly, it's also always remember, it will help people include to know what and what not will they be accountable for. When we are doing boundaries, always remember up to what threshold are you able to take that as a part of your responsibility. Now here, when I'm talking about it, is important to know the dual relationship or multiple relationships that we share. For example, today, if I know Takreem very well, okay, and if she's coming to me, as much as I would not want to go back to a history, even as a therapist, I might give that window that I think this is her pattern, you know, I have known her how she is. So that objective view or that filtering wouldn't come across. And most of you over here, if you're doing psychology, and I think Dr. Meghna would agree with me too, that we are taught that we have to be non-judgmental. Trust me, guys, as a therapist, I'm doing my very little bit as a qualitative analyst, that I think judgment comes very involuntary, is a part of us. It's only with time in the due process, okay, we filter it out. As simple as that. Even when I came in and I said a hi, you guys must have had some very minute judgment of what I'm wearing, what my hair looks like, what my mask is, why am I here, and so on and so forward. Okay, so it's only with time is that we learn not to probably, you know, filter it out, and then we're like, yeah, okay, wait, let me see. The Gestalt principle explains it very well. You either see it as a part or you see it as a whole. So I always say that we start with the part and then we finish it as a whole. So yeah, that's about the three things. I tried putting it in 15 minutes. It was very quick. I just, you know, ran through you all about what it was, because I didn't want it to seem like blowing the own trumpet, but at the same time, if we are the youth, okay, I am also on the spectrum with you guys. All of us are on the spectrum. Just probably we keep intensity is high or low, but we are right there. And that includes me, because I think I'm a human first, okay? And then I'm the designated therapist or anything that follows it. So probably our reactions would be the same. It's just that the coping mechanism would differ. And I think you're all in the making. So sure, anytime you'll need any help, anything, I'm here to help. Yeah, I'm okay for questions. And if I just ran through, I'm sorry for that.
I think first we all need to keep our cameras on and give ma'am the acknowledgement of the kind of work. This is from the psycho-educational point of view, from the mental health point of view, and the kind of work ma'am has put in during the pandemic. You know, the first thing is that when you hear KEM or you hear Cyan or you hear JJ and you have to go inside there without a PPE suit, you would want to take a step back, you know. So the whole idea is that, you know, her dedication is clearly reflected from her passion towards her work and what she really believes in. And I think I really want to appreciate ma'am for Vishakha for coming, taking time out from your busy schedule. You all can see ma'am is still in the hospital and she has a mask on, but whenever we invite and whatever is her time schedule, she always tries to accommodate, and I really want to extend my gratitude to you, Vishakha.
Thank you, ma'am. That's very kind of you.
And thank you also for sharing your experience with our students. Yes, it was a short time, and I'm sure we will be hearing Vishakha ma'am in further programs and future programs, because she is an excellent speaker and has a lot of knowledge when it comes to clinical psychology. And I'm sure many of you here look at clinical psychology as a career in your future thing. So we want to hear more of this from ma'am. We will extend the dais to Takreem and Rida for maybe 2-3 questions quickly, and we have our next speaker on board already. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I think one of the most important questions that have come here is that how to sympathize your own self rather than having a negative perception of yourself. Even being a psychology student, we feel very drained. They've asked your views on this.
Of course, you have to feel drained. We are not robots. As I very correctly said, I'm like, when I also say, and people are like, oh, you're a psychologist, you can. No, I'm a human first. We share the same components in the brain. It's going to react the same way when I get a hug. It's going to be the same way if I'm going to see a dog whom I don't like, who's running and coming because I'm phobic to it. So I would say, I wouldn't want to say that you need to sympathize with yourself. I would just want to say, just give 10 minutes in a day to yourself. I think Dr. Meghna said that she doesn't like meditation. Yeah, I am also one of those. I mean, the least I would want to teach somebody is like, okay, breathe in and breathe out. I know that's very important and that's a part of my eclectic technique. But again, I would just say what is important are self check-ins. Okay, so when I'm saying self check-in is just to yourself. Like right now, I'm sure you guys would be having certain thoughts in your mind. What we do is we shove them down. Okay, so my thing would be that you just sit by, by 10 minutes by your own self and be your friend. Like, if I tell you that I need help, I'm sure Maitri would come to my rescue that, yes, Vishakha, tell me what happened. I'm here to help you. Okay, but same thing, if Maitri herself needs it, she'll be like, okay, Maitri, this is not right. How could you do it? You shouldn't have done that. You've done that before. We are so harsh on ourselves, right? But if Maitri can be so good to Vishakha, why not to herself first? Okay, it's about applying, guys. Like, when I'm very psychoanalytic at heart, but trust me, you guys, whatever you all are studying, the time you start applying, you all would actually know what it seems like. Like, I remember there is no single strategy that I would have given to people whom I have catered or served in any form or manner, which I haven't tried. It's like you should know what high a pill can give you, right? So the same way, you need to know the high that what strategy can give you. So just a self check-in is very important. Yeah, if that answers the question.
Yeah, so I completely resonate with what Vishakha says. I don't do meditation, but I've been eating my students' head that please put on that bestie song because I just love, I mean, that's one of the only English song I've heard recently. So that's my 10 minute. It's either hot star, it's all those Saas Bahu complicated thing that even complicates it, but I just keep looking at their saris and their clothes and their hairdo. And that's my relaxation time after the whole day. Or if that doesn't work, then the bestie song works. Or I tell my son, start dancing. And my husband also starts dancing. So I think we all need that break.
Ma'am, you got mute. Ma'am, I think you got mute.
I'm sorry. So I completely agree with what ma'am said, that we all are human beings and we all are doing our best. So it's good to be a good friend, but I think it's important also to reach out for professional help.
Absolutely.
And it's absolutely okay to reach out. We do that, and I am also a very strong believer in psychoanalysis. And my husband says you should not go once a day; you should go 3 times a day. You need help 3 times a day. Once before you start the lecture, middle, take a break, go, and then before you sleep, take help. So, yeah.
Correct. I so agree to you, ma'am. Very correctly put across. And when I was coming to social media, guys, like I have no problem with everybody who's coming out and trying to educate and being there. But most of the times I've seen that how people take that as a therapy, and they actually sit and checklist that, okay, do I fall into this? Okay, no, then I'm okay. But listen, every therapist has a different way of functioning, like including my own page. If you see, it is coming through what I believe in. So you guys need to check for yourself. Probably if you're so taken, if that's your first step, you can use that as a screener, but then at least get it ruled out by a professional who can help you and guide you at its best. So that's a little tiny message I would want to give all you guys. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's really a nice take-in. Over to you, Takreem, to propose the vote of thanks for ma'am. Sorry, Vishakha, we're just running a little over.
No, I get it.
We have another speaker, very young, budding. I wish you had a little time to listen to Miss Priya. So, yes, thank you. Over to you, Takreem.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for being here and answering all our questions. I'm sure if you check the chat, there are a lot of people who are thanking you for answering their questions. I think some of those questions which we cannot even put into words. So we really believe that here on we'll be able to achieve and approach our interpersonal relationships with more maturity and understandings and without having to feel guilty about it. So that's very, very important. Thank you so much for that. Highlighting.
Thank you. And I like the best part. After I spoke, I like the energy that you had. Like your intonation of voice was tar up. So good. That's what helps everybody for cohesiveness. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
I think hearing that we are not alone gives us the confidence that we can truly do this. So we really appreciate the time that you've taken to enlighten us with your knowledge and putting it in such simplest terms that we all can understand. So we wish you all the best for your future aspirations. Thank you for being here with us. I would now like to invite Rida to introduce our last speaker for the day.
I will start off the segment with a small quote by Harvey Milk. It takes no compromise to give people their rights. It takes no money to respect the individual. It takes no political deal to give people freedom. It takes no survey to remove oppression. It will be unfair to define and identify the LGBTQ plus solely as a community that is discriminated against. And to define them is to case their dynamic, limitless, and boundless perspectives and personalities, lost of their divine essence into a mere entity. However, it is equally important to acknowledge their struggles and stand with them in unity, as being neutral about it is an act of the privileged and it insinuates that one has chosen the side of the oppressor. With that being said, we warmly welcome our next speaker, Ms. Riya Sharma, a human rights youth activist, a TEDx speaker, and an educator on a mission to raise awareness about LGBTQ plus issues and empower people to be their true authentic selves. Ms. Riya is currently the head of ROHA, a gender inclusive initiative, as well as a co-founder and activist at the Jimmy Foundation. They also had the opportunity to share their narrative on Joe's Talk, which peaked at number 9 on trending list with over 2 million views. Handing over the dice to our young and vivacious speaker. Over to you, ma'am.
No, before Ria speaks, I have to give in my bit of introduction. So, guys, let me give you a small story. I got Ria's reference, and of course, it came to me as Riya Sharma. And like I am, I didn't know, and I called Riya, and someone told me that she's really busy. And Riya said, "Hello, and I'm busy, and this is my schedule, and all." And I said, Riya, she was very nice, and she said, okay, I'm going to send you my photo. And that's when the photo came. And I called Riya back a minute later, and I said, Riya, I'm Meghna, ma'am. And she said, who? I said, I taught you in Jai Hind. I used to come on the weekends for the life skill course. And she said, yes, ma'am, I'm there. Tell me what time and this. And guess what? This world is such a small place. So I have known Riya in the last 3 years, but like I said, I never forget faces, I forget names. So Riya and we have worked for many Sundays where they have done their life skills training. So she's also certified life skills. She's done the course in life skills from Jai Hind College. A very, very active student. She used to sit on the first row. And I still remember her shots, and every time before the activity would stand, she would put her hand up and say, I want to volunteer, if you remember, with Vikram sir. So thank you so much, Riya. I mean, you've done so much. I mean, as soon as I set out the poster and invites, I got a lot of comments from your college teachers saying that, wow, we would love to have her recording because she's our college student. And I said, yes, but she's a part of our program now. So welcome, Riya, and I'm really eager to listen to your contributions. Thank you for accepting her invite.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. It's honestly an honor to, be here and be a part of such an amazing initiative. So yeah, I mean, it's an honor, and of course, it's a small world. We meet each other from nowhere. So yeah, I mean, without wasting any time, hi there, I'm MX Riya Sharma, and I go by the pronouns they and them. So yeah, those are my pronouns, and I'll appreciate if you guys could just make an effort to use the right pronouns whenever you're talking in the third person. So before I start, I always talk about how, at birth, our mind, our conscious, our soul is actually like a clean slate. We are born without any ideas. We are born without any stereotypes. But unfortunately, we move around the world, we meet new people, we form biases, we form stereotypes, and we ruin that clean slate. I used to call that slate the slate of love and empathy. And kids are like that. Okay. अगर उनका फ्रेंड उनके साथ टिफिन शेयर करता है तो वो उनका फ्रेंड है. वो फर्क नहीं पड़ता कि वो कौन से रिलीजन से आता है, कौन से सेक्सुअलिटी से आता है. And this is not what I say. This is what a 9-year-old told me. When I was in a session and I was training students, I asked them whether they'll discriminate or be friends with a guy who is in love with another guy, and he was like, "नहीं, tiffin share करेगा तो ठीक है, और कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता." So stuff, we need to like go back, and when we do such kind of initiatives, we get that opportunity to again go back to that clean slate. So yeah, today is then opportunity to solve biases and get rid with all the stereotypes that you might be having. And I want this to be a very interactive session. In between, if you feel that you don't agree with what I said, this is a safe space where you can form your own opinions, put them forward, and we can have a clear discussion. So, talking about my short story so that you know who you're listening to, I come from a very, very privileged background. And my story is not that of a typical queer person. So I was born with a lot of privilege, a silver spoon, in fact, a golden spoon. I had very supportive parents, but nevertheless, even with the privileges, it was hard for me to come out as queer in a country which is not really accepting of people who identify differently. At the age of 5, I knew that I was different. I was caught up in the wrong body, but I didn't have words to express my feelings. When I started menstruating at the age of 12, I somewhere felt that, my body was going against my soul. Because जैसे हमें बोलते हैं ना इंडिया में अगर आपको periods आ गए तो अभी आप एक woman हो. So you will have to behave like a proper woman. If you don't, then what will happen. Okay. So for me, it was I didn't even feel like a girl before. But after I hit menstruation, after I hit puberty and I started menstruating, it was a space where I felt truly dysphoric. I couldn't feel comfortable. I would do all sorts of things to fit into my body. And I've always narrated this very intimate story where I used to use my dad's shaving cream and put it on my face. And I had a tea letter, and I would just, pretend that I was shaving with him. A lot of people thought that, bache aisa karte and stuff like that. But for me, it was actually a safe space where I could be myself. And I realized that much, much, much later. At the age of 15, I came out to my school friends and they abandoned me and stuff like that. After that, I also met a counselor who told me that I could get my sexuality treated. And for all the potential psychologists here, we need to understand that this is not how it works. You cannot do yoga, you cannot do anything to change a person's identity, which is just so innate. But the reality is, a lot of people are there who say such things. And a lot of queer people go through this. Because I didn't have a safe space, I went online, talked to people, and there I was blackmailed so much that I was anxious. I couldn't even get out of my bed. And, it was just a hard time for me because I was in a very vulnerable spot. In 2016, it gets happier. Okay, guys. Yes, it was dark, but now it gets happier. In 2016, I came out to my parents. And as Punjabi Indian parents, I did not expect them to accept me the very moment I came out, but they did. They said that हमें फर्क नहीं पड़ता कि आप queer हो, आप gender fluid हो, हमें ये फर्क पड़ता है कि आप एक अच्छे इंसान हो. And that really, that really pushed me to become whatever I wanted to. And then there was no going back. I got into activism. I started working with a lot of people. And I realized that the entire LGBT arena is much more than what we think, So yeah, that was about my story. And now we'll get a little technical about, youth activism and stuff like that. So all of you here, right? I see some of your faces, I see some names. But the first thing that I do is to not assume your gender. Now, the most of you who have switched on their cameras have long hair. And Mohit has short hair. But I wouldn't assume that Mohit is the only guy in this, in this room, because I don't know. I don't know what they feel comfortable in. So I would rather ask them and then refer to them. So there's a small activity that we'll do, which is, you have an option to change your name. Okay, just go there and write your pronouns that you go by as of now in this moment, because it can change later on. But if you're comfortable, just add your pronouns after your name. And we'll discuss why this was important. Yeah, I see some of you doing it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, cool. So I'll just ask you a question. Why did we do this? Why did we put pronouns after our names? Why was it so important? Just put it in the chat box, switch on your audios, everything is fine.
So we don't misgender.
Sorry?
So we don't misgender.
Yes, absolutely, Anushka. A very important point. Anything else?
I think to normalize the concept that binary is not everything in this world.
Yeah, absolutely. We see everything in binaries, literally everything. So yeah, so cool. I mean, we have two very important points. And it's also important because a lot of people feel pushed to the margins just because they constantly have to prove their identity. For people like me, I constantly have to explain it to people why I use they and them. But when you guys put your pronouns, I felt that I was not the only one who had to, come forward, prove my identity, tell my entire coming out story, and then feel, okay, theek hai, you belong here, and stuff like that. After having lived, say, 15 years of my life using the wrong pronouns, when I got that freedom to use the right pronouns, it literally felt liberating. I could finally fit into my idea of who I was and what I wanted to be, And I'll be very, very, very candid when I say that the entire thing changed when I started falling a path of spirituality, right? And I am a big fan of meditating. I do 2 hours of meditation every time, but I know that this is not the norm here, but we are breaking norms. So, okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, when I did that, I realized that it's not about finding your identity. It's not about finding the label that you fit into. I came out as lesbian, and a year later, I came out as gender fluid. Now I'm more comfortable using queer as a label because it gives me more freedom. 5 years down the line, I don't know what I'll refer to myself. And that is okay, because the entire Pride movement is about loving yourself as you are. And it can be literally everything. You can love anybody without any label. You can love anybody, have a label which you feel comfortable in. So it's about breaking binaries, right? Going more to the basic, we don't even know what's the difference between gender and sex. That's the saddest part. And you know what? This is so interesting. Why we think that we know the difference, but we don't. And unconsciously, we do discriminate people on the basis of their sex and their gender. So again, a quick question, and you can put it in the chat box or unmute yourself. What's the difference between gender and sex? So that we know the basics. Yeah.
I think sex is the physical characteristics that you're born with, and gender is something that you express yourself as. So you can be born as a biological male, but then you can express yourself as a female or non-binary, whatever you're comfortable.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much for answering that. Absolutely. So you are particularly actually assigned a particular sex at birth. It can be male, female, and do you think that there's another sex in the world? Yeah, there is.
There's intersex.
Beautiful. Yes, there's intersex and there are intersex variations. A lot of people don't know that. Intersex is not having ambiguous genitalia. It's not just that. There are more variations to it. You can be born with typical male-female genitalia and still be intersex, which you find out later on. So there are many misconceptions related to that. So sex is basically assigned. So we say male, female, intersex. But when you grow up, you understand who you are, you express how you want to, and that's your gender. You can be a woman, man, gender non-binary, queer, anything in the world. And that is very, very important to know. You have that freedom to express yourself. And gender is also very different from expression. So I can be a woman, I can feel as a woman, but still express myself very masculinely. I can be very masculine and still be a woman at my heart, which is absolutely okay. I say that a lot of women, I think most of the women in India and abroad cross dress, because we have the freedom to wear pants, we have the freedom to wear shirts. But would that be the same idea if a man wears a skirt and perhaps a tight crop top? No, it won't be. We would bully them. We would say that they are effeminate, they are not man enough. And of course, it's the same for women too, But we break binaries. That is what is very, very important, right? So we have understood the difference between gender, sex, sexuality, expression, and the entire pronoun scene that's going on. Okay, when we talk about activism, it's very important to understand that activism is not about just doing activism. It's also about understanding where you live, understanding what the situations are. A lot of times people say, activism is going on the streets, becoming a part of pride and stuff like that. No, it's not. You can't take it that way. In India, you'll have to find where the problem is coming from. In India, the entire LGBT issue is also connected to, say, culture. It's also related to past. People say, "Arey, hamare culture mein nahi hai." Arey, religion, what will religion say? So if that is what you are facing, then you'll have to tackle it that way. So for example, when people tell me कि हमारे culture में नहीं था, India के past में नहीं था, this is a westernized thing, I tell them कि see, India is the most diverse country in terms of culture as well as religion. And if you open books, if you open scriptures, you'll see that there are so many queer representation there, and literally beautiful queer representation. Section 377 was based on Victorian morality. It was not an Indian law. Before that, LGBT people, especially trans individuals, were respected. They were part of the government who used to, maintain the entire country, manage the entire country. When Section 377 came in, it was a Victorian law. It was not our law. And it got struck down just now. And England had it struck down long back. So we were still like following that law. It was not our law. And in 2018, we got that opportunity to, struck it down. If you also see the history of activism in India, in 2009, it was decriminalized. In 2012, it was recriminalized. And in 2018, it got again decriminalized. So it's not been simple all the way. It's very, very difficult. In 2019, we also got the transgender protection law, which is not really protection if we had the kind of debate that we are having, right? So that's very important when you do activism. And as youth, I feel like the youth has the potential. We have the voice, we have the privilege, we have the resources. If you really go to, smaller cities, villages, which I got the opportunity to talk to, I realized that the issue goes much deeper. And I mean, trigger warning, the thing that I'll be talking about might include abuse and rape. And so if you feel that you'll be triggered, you could just mute your earphones just for some time. So when I was, a first responder for people during the lockdown, I got many calls. Also because I gave Josh talk and it was in Hindi, and it could reach out to, smaller cities. People could understand what I was talking. When you talk in English and TEDx talks and all of that, it does not reach to smaller cities because they don't even understand what it is, So when I did that, I realized that, there's also sexism when we talk about LGBT. I met two couples. This was a case study that I was working on. One was a gay married man and one was a lesbian married woman. Okay. When I talked to the gay married man, they said that I still have freedom to not impose myself onto my woman or onto my wife because I'm gay, right? I can still like go out and still be myself. But when I talked to the lesbian woman, they said that my husband would actually impose himself on me and abuse me because, of course, he's heterosexual. I'm lesbian, so I'm vulnerable. So you see, there are two similar stories: married homosexual individuals, but they don't have freedom to be themselves just because people don't give them the freedom to be themselves. It's that simple. So, so when we talk about this, it's very important to being intersectional also. We cannot just talk about people like me who were born with privileges and going through very privileged difficulties. I'll be very honest. My difficulties were with, my friends will not accept me and stuff like that. My difficulty was not finding a way to survive. There's a very big difference. Even if I had difficulties, it was still like limited to a lot of things. I've met people who were kicked out of their own homes and did not have homes to live in, did not have shelter, queer people. And that's where we talk about intersectionality. So this is what we can do, okay? There's a lot to talk about. And LGBT is such a vast topic that I can go on forever and there'll still be a lot to talk about. And that's the reason why we use plus after LGBT. That's because we are predicting that many more alphabets will come in. And that is the beauty of it. We talk about transphobia, we talk about homophobia. There's also biphobia, where people feel that bisexual individuals are not valid individuals. I would question that. Honestly, this is a space, young space, where I can talk about my stories. And I've dated bisexual individuals who have been very committed. And I've dated bisexual individuals who did not have the same idea as me, about love. And that's absolutely okay. But it's not about being promiscuous, that's what I'm talking about. Love is love. And when we talk about, educating children about it, I get it a lot of times. So basically my work is to educate children about gender, sex, sexuality. And I love my job because it's so easy to teach them. It's so easy to educate them. And it's so difficult to educate elders. Because they have a very, very easy idea of who they are, easy idea of what love is. See, if you tell them a spoon is married to a spoon, they'll get it. You don't have to emphasize a lot about the concept. They just get. If you say your chacha is bringing another chacha, it's absolutely okay. They get it. You don't have to think about, kya sochenge? Think about, if we tell them, would they be inclined to it? Are we exposing them to unnecessary knowledge? See, it's like don't tell me about cancer. It's same as that. It will happen if it has to, but at least you know what to do about it. At least you know how to prepare yourself. So same as LGBT. Okay, LGBT is not a disease, first of all. It's not what you inherit. It's not genetic. It's not psychological. I'm sorry if you thought that it was a prospective job, but it is not. So yeah, so it's not about that. You have to educate people about it. You have to, and when you educate children about it, it will be easier for them. As psychologists, we need to understand that when a person is queer, they go through a lot of mental trauma. They might be dysphoric. They might doubt themselves. They might actually feel guilty about being themselves because people don't talk about it. When I was growing up, I honestly had to fit myself into the Bollywood representation that was there. So when there was Shah Rukh Khan and Kajol, I had to fit myself into Shah Rukh Khan's shoes. I mean, I question, why did I have to do that? And that, I mean, it sounds very funny, it sounds very basic, but it actually has a lot of effect on children who are questioning themselves. If you don't talk about it, if you don't create a safe space, they will go to resources, they will go to people who they cannot trust. I had that kind of experience where I went to I actually consumed wrong information. I felt I doubted myself. So it's very important to create safe space, and how we can do that is to become true allies. I know there was a bombardment of information, a bombardment of a lot of sensitive topics, but I feel that it's important. Now this discussion was not about what it is, but now it's about what we have to do. We talk about this a lot. I've done so many sessions in the past year, but it does not end there. You might exit this, leave this session and forget about me, forget about the conversation that we had. But what's important in activism and being a youth is to be responsible, at every step. So, there are many ways where you can be allies. And as a youth, as a Gen Z, I think like social media has a big role in activism. But at the same time, we need to be responsible consumers. We need to actually declutter who we follow. I'm sorry, but we have to declutter who we follow. We have to declutter what content we consume, because it definitely has an effect on your mental health. So like the things that we can do is to be good allies. Don't assume by what a person looks like, what a person says, how a person says, how they express themselves. Simply ask respectfully. A lot of people say, Kinai, isn't it offensive to ask? It's not. It's definitely not. Just ask how a story, ask how their story has been. And if I'm gender fluid, it does not mean that the other gender fluid person will share the same experience as I. So you cannot assume. You always have to ask how their stories have been. Also take steps, take initiatives. Put your pronouns in your Instagram handles. Talk about it on your Instagram. Do live sessions with LGBT influencers or LGBT activists. They have a lot to talk about. And when we miss out on LGBT individuals, we miss out on a lot of things. We lose a lot of countries' wealth. We talk about how we lose a good amount of GDP that could grow in our country. We lose a lot of brains, because in India, there's a phenomena known as gay brain drain, which is interesting how, it sounds like a good term, right? So what happens is a lot of people feel that India is not a safe space. So they go abroad and there they settle, but their brain gets utilized in that country. So here we drain the brain that could be useful to us. So that's what we are talking about. We need queer individuals in our country. We need to create safe spaces where eventually we are creating a safe environment. And it's not just about LGBT people. When we talk about gender, when we talk about sexuality, all the people who are not even heterosexual and homosexual or cisgendered, even they get a safe space where they can express themselves more freely. Now, you might be heterosexual, you might be cisgendered, but somewhere when LGBT activists talk about gender, talk about sexuality, even others get that freedom to express in general, So that's about it. And this is a safe space. This is an open platform. You can ask any questions that you want to, even if they are intimate and you're curious to ask. You need to make that slate a clean slate now. Okay. So any questions, any doubts that you have are welcome. Yeah, go forward.
I think we have a lot of questions from people in the chat box. I think one of the most important questions that we need to address is what do you want to see from non-queer people? How do we become the good allies without taking up space that do not belong to us?
See, I would rather say that I don't actually believe in the idea of taking up space. I believe in the idea that if you have space, then utilize it in a good way. I do believe in passing on the mic, and that's what we should do. How we can be good allies. We talked about how we can be good allies. If a friend comes out to you, don't be all, oh, I'm so happy for you. Wow, tell me about your life. Take it slow, take it low key. Okay. Ask how their experience have been. Say that yes, you want to understand how their journeys have been. Don't assume what their journeys have been. Talk about them. If you feel that somebody wants help, somebody wants assistance, give them resources. There are many resources online, many resource people online. Connect them to that. You yourself can connect to many people and be more clear with the entire LGBT concept. I think that's important. And just small things like not assuming, using the right pronouns. A lot of people, now I can point it out. A lot of people would use ma'am for me. And I question why. You don't have to. My name is Ria. My pronouns are they and them. You can just call me Ria. If you, a lot of times people say, nahi, but hame respect karna hai aapko. Kuch to chahiye. Then I say, okay, if you are an Indian Hindu person, call me Ria ji. It's gender fluid, it's gender neutral. So find ways where you can be more neutral than very, binary. So question yourself, we all have to question ourselves. Kahan hai jahan we discriminate? Like even as heterosexual people, we discriminate a lot. We might say the guy should pay for the date that I went to, or the guy should be the responsible person in the relationship. We are reinforcing the binary. So question yourself, ask yourself before you doubt others. So I think that's important. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I think I really agree with you. I think initiative from our side is very, very important.
Yeah.
Unless and until we do that, there's nothing that we can do. We have another question, and this might be a little triggering for some people. So please feel free to disconnect or switch off your microphones. A lot of times, parents might give off the idea that they are not open to the child's identity, and there is always a lingering fear that coming out to your parents might not be acceptable. And in a society that is so community driven, how do people deal with this fear?
Acha. So this is a very important question, very sensitive question, and very close to my heart. My parents work with other parents to accept their queer children. And that is where I got stories, okay? So before you come out, okay, the coming out is a process. And understand that coming out will not clear all your difficulties. It has the potential to increase our difficulties. So be prepared. Okay, so there's a process that we should follow to come out. Okay, so let's take coming out as a topic. Okay, first, coming out should not be a norm in your mind. If you don't want to come out, don't come out. You're not missing out on anything. You need to be prepared. You need to know your environment. Okay, if you feel that you're not safe to come out, don't come out. It's so simple. Don't put yourself into a situation which is going to be difficult for you. Become financially independent and then come out. I say it on people's face that agar tumhe lag raha hai na ki abhi nahi come out karna hai, mat karo. Tum grow ho jao, get financially independent, then come out. So in like how I explain coming out is there are 3 processes. Before coming out, during coming out, and after coming out. Before coming out, you should understand that your parents belong from a very different generation. And if you throw a truth bomb, it would be hard for them too. So you cannot expect ki, haan, wo aaj ke aaj bole, okay, beta, okay, I'm okay with you being queer. They might have their own dreams of your life, and it is triggering for them too. So before coming out, you need to educate them slowly, tell them how there are many queer successful individuals out there who are doing great. Sensitize them, tell them about Sweekar Parents Group, which is basically a group of queer parents. Talk about it, have discussions. Then while you're coming out, don't don't talk about things like partnership or how the other parent has to accept and stuff like that. You have to give them space. It is traumatic for them to give them space, take it slowly, and I think and understand where your parents come from too. So if they are very culturally driven, they talk about religion a lot, then you have examples, talk about that. If they belong from a Christian family, you can talk about how there are many churches now who propagate about LGBT. If you are Hindu, then talk about Krishna, talk about the Mohini story, talk about Shikandi, talk about all the gender fluid representation that we have. If you are a Muslim, then talk about how Quran says that God created all, and how God cannot create defective pieces. God only creates perfect human beings, and all that he creates is perfect. So talk about that, so you need to educate yourself and also educate others slowly. So that's about it. After coming out, you have to give them space, and help them. If they are still finding it difficult to come out, then connect them to resources, connect them to people. And if you feel that still you both are going through a difficult emotional time, then you can refer to counselors. There is now a thing known as queer affirmative counselors. You have to undergo a training, which MHI gives. You can contact them and they can help you out and your parents to accept each other, basically. So I think that's about it. And I hope that, it was definitely long, there's much more, but I hope that somewhere you get that idea.
Thank you so much. I think we'll take another question, one last question. It's a twofold question, another very sensitive question. How do you address self-hate, especially for people within the community, and how do you address discrimination among the community members?
Self-hate and discrimination. Okay, so see, what happens is we have created an environment where we doubt ourselves a lot. I'm not talking about being queer, just in general, we doubt ourselves at each step. When we take when we are to select our majors, we question ourselves. Am I capable to do clinically? Would I be able to, able to handle cases? Would I be able to be a good counselor and stuff like that? We doubt ourselves at every step. So that's the culture that we have been following, right? And that's where we should talk about it more. Self-doubt will come unless we have the right discrimination. There are queer people talking everywhere until LGBT becomes a dinner table conversations. Till then, self-doubt will always be there. Because around us, we will not see queer people existing. We will only see heterosexual cisgendered ideas. Now, when I was growing up, all my friends in school, I suppose, were heterosexual cisgender. So I doubted myself. When you're different, you doubt yourself. But you need to question, remind yourself that being different is okay. Being weird is okay. Be yourself. And see, it takes a lot of self-talk. It takes a lot of effort on your part. A lot of times I slowly realized, even in my spiritual journey, that a lot of times most of the things are not in your control, but you can work on yourself and then take ahead your life. You cannot, sometimes you never know what comes your way, good things, bad things. But you can only work on yourself and not other people a lot of times. So I think it takes a lot of work, takes a lot of self-talk. And talking about discrimination, even when you guys are allies, okay? A lot of times when you are openly allied, people will ask you, tum bhi queer ho, tum bhi lesbian ho, tum bhi bisexual ho. Just because you have rainbow flags on your bio, just because you have put your pronouns. But know that when you become allies, you are responsible for that. And it's okay if it comes your way because you are true supporters. So see, what I did was very funny. When I did my Joe's talk and I got millions of views, I became vulnerable and responsible at the same time. because now the entire world knew that I was lesbian. But at the same time, there were also people who were getting hope just by me talking about my privileged story. You know, they could at least say, कि, हाँ यार, मैं भी ऐसा ही feel करती हूँ. You know, that is important. And we still don't have that kind of representation. You see our movies, right? There are so much of homophobia filled in it. There is so much of sexism filled in it. Even girls question themselves today, you know. And so that's difficult. We talk about girls, right? Talking about LGBT is a long way ahead. You know, we at least need to make girls safe so that they can talk about themselves. They can be individuals, you know, and not possessions, you know. And so that is very important. So yeah, going back to the Joe Stock story, when I did that, there were many death threats happening, rape threats happening. You know, I would get it on my mail, on my Instagram ID, comments in general. And like I am, I would read all of them. Okay. But I had a draft made, and it was about sex, gender, sexuality, and expression. Is this? And so a very like educative thing, and a draft. I still have it. Okay. And whenever I get a homophobic comment, I just put it, copy paste it. I don't engage, because a lot of times rage does not work. Patience does. They come from a background of ignorance. Don't doubt yourself. Just educate. And if they have to learn, they will. At least you have triggered a part of their brain, a part of their mind to think. Some people will still be homophobic. They would not understand. Slowly they will, at least to trigger a certain kind of thinking in them. So I think that's important, to not get affected by discrimination. A lot of times, yes, you have to have your voice, but don't engage in such a way that has a bad effect on your mental health. That is what I think.
Thank you so much. Priya, I'm sure we've taken a lot of your time, but we're really thankful for answering all our questions. And there are more coming in, but we're really sorry for this. We will definitely forward all the questions to you. And you can also reach out to Ria on on their Instagram page as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for taking time out from your busy schedule. Your journey and your growth is truly, truly motivating and enlightening for all of us present here today, emphasizing how it is important to change our binary perspective and bringing us back to our basics. And coming from students who are aspiring psychologists, I think this is a really important session for us, and how it is really important for us to be very conscious of how we address people and ensure that our future is much more brighter and much more inclusive. So looking forward to that. I hope we achieve that one day, and we will. I hope we can all accomplish and embrace our journey towards self-acceptance and growth with the same amount of courage as you have. Thank you so much for joining in. It was truly a privilege to be here with us today.
Thank you so
much.
Thank you so much. Round of applause for Ria. I think, you know, she spoke from her heart. And Ria, I have no words, but I really think what the content of your discussion today is really important. For that matter, I was telling my second year students, you know, that subject POA, and there is a whole topic on coming out and how you know, do it. And today I was supposed to do the topic, and I told them that please attend the talk, because it's very important that we acknowledge that it's okay, you know, and the youth are the major contributors to our society. So, you know, their reactions and how they deal with these situations is really important. So thank you, Ria. It's really, really nice having you with us. And namaste. I'm holding actually the phone, but huge round of applause.
Thank you.
So we have a small gratitude song from one of our singers. She's an singer in the class. If you can just spare 2 minutes. And we have Ria Srivastav. She's also Ria. And over to you, Takreem, and all to hand over the dais to Ria.
With an esteemed
oh my God. Takreem, can I see Ria? This is so professional. I've never seen something like this live. I'm excited. Over to you. Thank you, Takreem.
Thank you so much, ma'am. With an extensive list of esteemed panelists who interacted with our audience today and addressed issues relevant to the youth, ranging from defying rigid norms to handling interpersonal relationships, enhancing community well-being, protecting the environment, to having the courage to embrace your identity. We have now come towards the end of our webinar. However, no webinar can end without a little bit of fun and frolic. And hence, for this next segment, celebrating International Youth Day and also our classmates' birthday, we invite Riya Srivastava to lift our spirits with a song medley that concludes our event in the most melodious way possible.
Hi guys, am I audible? Good evening, everyone. We hope you really enjoyed the webinar that was organized by my lovely classmates and by a wonderful HOD. And before I start, as the cream said, it's one of our classmates, Kritika's birthday. So if you would join me in wishing her a very happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kritika. Happy birthday to you. May God bless you. May God bless you. Happy birthday, dear Kritika. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Kritika. We hope you had a great day and thank you so much for the 2 free classes this morning.
Thank you so much, Riya. It was wonderful. The song was really nice.
Now, I would also like to dedicate a song to our lovely HOD, Dr. Meghna Basu Thakur. So, thank you so much for such an inspirational teacher. And not just an inspirational teacher, but also a woman to look up to. So thank you so much. And here's a song from all of us to you. My best friend, your best you, sit down by the water. Your best friend says she won't party. Can we take these waves a little higher? Talk about hey now, hey now, hey now, hey now. I know, I know. Yo que mo, I know. Yo que mo, I know. Your best you, sit down by the fire. Your best you says she won't party. Can we take these waves a little higher? Talk about hey now, hey now, hey now, hey now. I know, I know. Yo que mo, I know. Yo que mo, I know. Start by talking, don't jump out. Can we do it together? I'll tell you a lot, don't get. Take my hand for better. Talk about hey now, hey now, hey now, hey now. I can work for one day. Look at me, I'm not ready. Talk about hey now. Talk about hey now, hey now, hey now, hey now. I can work for one day. Talk about I'm not ready. Talk about hey now. Talk about hey now, hey now, hey now, hey now. I can work for one day.
Thank you so much, Riya. That is why I was wondering, why is this song still not put up? I've been telling my students, please have this song because it just lightens my mood. And I think today is a real interesting day, but I think this was kept for the last. Thank you, Riya. Very well sung. And thank you. You really made me happy. Yes. Thank you all, TYs. Thank you. You can go ahead, darling.
I would like to end this segment on a medley that I programmed along with my father, as it also includes one of his songs. So I would really like to perform that for you. Yeah, we're happy, free, confused, and lonely at the same time. It's miserable and magical. Oh yeah, tonight's the night when we forget about the deadline. It's time. What if we run away? What if we lost today? What if we say goodbye to say
much, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed. And thank you so much for this lovely webinar.
That was an absolutely phenomenal performance, Ria. I'm sure our audience enjoyed this performance to the brim. Thank you so much for lifting our spirits and ending this webinar on a very, very light and happy note. Thank you so much for showcasing your talents, and thank you. A lot of speakers are still here today. Thank you so much for joining in and staying with us here till the end. Lastly, I request you all to fill the feedback form. It will be up in the chat box as well and the WhatsApp groups. The certificates will be handed over to all of you in a week's time after you fill out the feedback form. Once again, thank you everyone for your participation in such large numbers and making International Youth Day 2021 so special and memorable for all of us. I would now like Dr. Meghna Basu Thakur, the head of Department of Psychology, to present a concluding note to our event. Did Meghna ma'am get disconnected for some reason? Is she here? She's facing a few technical issues.
She's not here, Takri.
All right, I think there's some technical issue with her. I'm really sorry. But once again, thank you everyone for being a part of this webinar. I'm sure it has been very, very enlightening and empowering. It delved into topics that were very, very important to the youth and need to be taken into account when, especially because we are the future and the future leaders. So I would like to extend a very, very hearty gratitude to all the speakers for imparting their knowledge and taking time out from their busy schedules to be a part of this webinar. Lastly, I would also thank all my fellow classmates who are working so hard on this webinar. Thank you so much for turning up in such large numbers. We have audience from Zoom and YouTube actively engaging with our speakers. Thank you so much for making our guest field very, very, very welcome. And we hope to see you very, very soon with another webinar. Thank you so much.